Rarely swearing, I waved my hand to signal the merfolk to clean up the battlefield, then quickly left their line of sight, took off the merman suit, and ran straight up the mountain where the commander's token was kept. Right after wiping out those 40 guys, the commander's token automatically sent a new notification, an extremely rare occurrence. Its sole content was explaining the wanted star levels and what each level meant. A 1-star wanted poster. Only if I run into the Naval Guard patrol and get directly identified will they try to arrest me. Otherwise, they'll just ignore me and won't bother chasing me down. A 2-star wanted poster means I've made a name for myself. No matter where I am, every day after 12 p.m., the nearest government organization will receive my current coordinates. Immediately after, a patrol ship will be dispatched, carrying 40 low-level guards. These guys aren't too strong. Under the right conditions, merfolk enhanced by energy water could even fight them to a draw. But the terrifying part is, as long as I kill any of them, my wanted stars will keep going up. A 3-star wanted poster. I didn't have time to read further and directly issued a command. Commander's token, check my current wanted level, and check the time until the next Naval Guard patrol arrives at my current location. No longer restricted by the merman suit, my running speed skyrocketed. A trip that should have taken 20 minutes now took less than 3. Panting heavily, I reached out and grabbed the commander's token hovering in midair, asking straight away. Dear Deep Sea Commander, Su-Mo based on your current wanted level. The system records your current wanted index at 528. Time until the next Naval Guard patrol is dispatched, 16 hours and 2 minutes. Estimated time of arrival, 28 hours and 11 minutes. 2 numbers appeared. One was 16 hours, the other 28 hours. I immediately did the math in my head, quickly deducing the cruising speed of a 3-star patrol fleet. The patrol that just arrived at White Sand Island must have set off early yesterday morning, meaning they sailed against the wind for 32 hours to get here. Their willpower is terrifyingly resilient. But the next 3-star patrol, even sailing against the wind, will only take 12 hours, nearly 3 times as fast. In other words, as long as my star level doesn't increase, every noon, I'll be greeted by a ship full of cargo, full of soldiers, and thousands of reward points. Based on my current ammunition, even if I grind for 100 days killing these soldiers, I might not run out of bullets. But the problem is, the more I kill, the higher my stars go. If I reach 4 stars, what awaits me will be a siege army of up to 1,000 men, equipped with standard naval warships, commanded by a veteran captain, bringing 800 elite soldiers and 200 combat beasts. Under those conditions, even with overwhelming firepower, I could only hold out for a few waves. Ammo is limited, and so is stamina. If I stubbornly keep resisting, sooner or later, I won't be able to hold on. And when that time comes, the only way left to escape the trial is death. No, wait. If that's the case, isn't carrying a wanted poster just waiting to die? But looking at the objectives given by the commander's token, if I just follow them, my wanted stars will only increase. How the hell am I supposed to play this? Sitting on a rock, after a sprint that left my heart pounding, I actually felt much calmer. The immediate problem is to control the increase in stars or the wanted index. The wanted stars determine the strength of the siege army, while the wanted index determines the star level. As long as I can suppress one of these 2 factors, the patrol fleets arriving every day won't be a threat. They'll become a mobile ATM for points. Where exactly is the key to breaking this deadlock? From the moment I broke out of prison, I was already at 2 stars. This proves the trial system has a built-in way out. Then I started running away. Wait a minute. The territory modification card. I immediately pieced the whole sequence of events together. Thinking of the item I got yesterday, my heart suddenly pounded. I whipped the territory modification card out of my inventory. According to standard game design logic, rewards and quests are always linked. If the system encourages players to become fearless lords, it definitely left a way to solve this mess. Thank God I didn't rush to use it yesterday. Thinking back, the solution most likely lies in feature number 4. Last night, I hesitated between feature 2, territory construction support, and feature 4, special ability. But right now, looking at the glowing card in my hand, I took a deep breath and crushed it. I choose to use feature number 4, activate special ability. Dear Commander Su-Mo, choice confirmed. The system provides the following three options. Option 1, Blessed Land. Agricultural yield plus 50%, plus 10% chance to attract agricultural experts. Crop disaster resistance plus 25%. Growth speed plus 15%. Chance to increase crop grade. Option 2, Sailor's Hometown. Visitor traffic to the territory plus 50%. Consumption satisfaction plus 25%. Plus 10% chance to attract legendary captains. Territory security plus 15%. Chance to recruit elite level or higher characters. Option 3, Lawless Land. Visitor traffic to the territory plus 75%. 100% chance to attract pirates. Chaos level plus 100%. Crop yield minus 100%. While in the territory, the Naval Guard cannot determine your coordinates. Wanted poster, lock star level and index. Holy shit. I almost jumped up when I read Lawless Land. For a normal player carrying a 2-star wanted poster, seeing these three options would definitely make them hesitate. Lawless Land looks like a lifesaver at first glance, but plus 100% chaos and minus 100% crop yield would practically strangle any early-stage development of the territory. For a newcomer just setting foot on the island with weak forces, choosing this option is basically suicide. Once internal chaos breaks out, losing resources is one thing, but getting caught up in it and dying means it's game over. Unless, damn it, I was just planning to rob those pirates anyway. And now? This skill even offers home delivery. Not only that, all I have to do is take a stroll outside the island every night at 12 a.m. to let the guards get my coordinates. By noon the next day, I just stand on the island, wait for them to land, wipe them out, and boom, another ship and a pile of resources. This exploit is way too overpowered. War is brutal, but it's also the fastest way to drive productivity and technology. The deep sea world in the era of prosperity, thanks to the sea god's protection, has seen its maritime industry develop for 1,000 years. But the progress of unlocking the tech tree is depressingly slow. People live in peace and contentment. Social order is rock solid, and the sea rarely sees violent storms because it's regulated by the gods. Even piracy, a profession that should have thrived, has been strangled in the cradle by strict wanted orders. But starting from this moment, watching White Sand Island gradually recede into the distance until it's just a speck in the ocean, I know very well. The downward trend of the pirate industry is about to reverse. Captain, our ship has been perfectly disguised. Even a regular naval patrol wouldn't be able to spot anything unless they get right up close. We look exactly like a righteous maritime patrol. EU, wearing a perfectly fitted Naval Guard uniform and holding a long saber as tall as himself, looked majestic and imposing. There was no trace left of the short, stubby slave from 2 days ago. The ship the group was on was no longer that battered slave sailboat either. It had transformed into a legitimate patrol ship, complete with full documentation and a massive on-official duty sign hanging on the bow. In terms of size and speed, this ship was currently only on par with the old sailboat. But just wait one more day for White Sand Island to update its vessels, and we'll have a brand new patrol ship 3 times faster than this one. EU, pass down the order. Everyone must memorize the lines I wrote for them. If anyone blows our cover when we meet the enemy, they're asking for death. Remember our identity. We are now a regular patrol squad. I swung the 3-pointed, double-edged polearm in my hand. EU nodded joyfully and ran toward the aft deck. Only then did I sit down, satisfied. Over 1,000 reward points pouring in every day, a large ship with top-tier speed and materials, plus a ship fully loaded with resupplies. Ever since I chose to upgrade White Sand Island into a lawless land, the title race remained the same for others, but for me, the difficulty had practically hit rock bottom. Moreover, after thoroughly studying the hidden profit model behind this, a crazy, completely unorthodox idea began to take root in my mind. Just quietly developing here and investigating the cause of the Great War from years ago. What's the point of that? In this deep-sea world where the sea god slumbers and good and evil are blurred, within 3 months, I want to drag all the inhabitants down into the water with me. Or rather, directly overthrow the theocracy. I want to know, after breaking the ideological chains of theocracy, will this era of prosperity which is destined for destruction, have a chance to change? The moment the thought flashed through my mind, even I felt dizzy. But when I calculated it based on the massive resource reserves of this world and the near absolute loyalty of the slaves, I realized this plan is entirely feasible. If the sea god were still awake, with the way I'm breaking rules and exploiting loopholes right now, I would have been struck down by divine punishment long ago. But right now, the sea god is fast asleep. All it takes is a blitzkrieg, striking fast and winning fast before anyone can react, completing the initial accumulation of capital. Then White Sand Island will instantly become a massive faction that no one dares to underestimate, all while staying completely within the bounds of current laws. As for those merchant ships loaded with supplies out there, I don't need them. Right now, White Sand Island gets resupplied on time every day by the Naval Patrol. As long as the slave population doesn't exceed 3,000, there's absolutely no worry about shortages. In other words, White Sand Island is only short on people right now, short on a lot of slaves. Once the population reaches a large enough scale, I'll make all the inhabitants of the sea god's world open their eyes and see what a real industrial revolution looks like. That's exactly why, in the opening phase of the war, I directly targeted the slave merchant ships. 3 days. In 3 days, I have to push White Sand Island's population over 2,000. Setting the goal, I narrowed my eyes at the horizon. A ship flying a human head flag was gradually coming into view. I gripped the hilt of my three-pointed, double-edged polearm, the corners of my mouth curling into an indescribable smile. Chin Shun, look, it's been a day and the boss's status still hasn't changed. Yeah, so many people have gone out, but no one has said they've seen the boss. At Hope Village, located deep in the basin, even though all the villagers had retreated to the mountains for shelter, no one was willing to sit still during the first wave of tidal farming. Thanks to 2 life rafts and a few makeshift boats, almost all the villagers had gone out to sea and successfully obtained a level 1 title. But hitting level 2 was where the difficulties began to show. In shallow waters like Hope Village, continuing to upgrade titles was no easy feat, seeing Pei Xiao and Qi Qin sitting there anxiously. Qin Shun had to stand up, press them down, and force them to sit. Come on, drink some tea. Don't be anxious. Brother Pei, take a break. I told you, the boss will definitely reach a level 4 title before coming in. I can still see his status is busy. Relax. Think about it. If there was real danger, wouldn't the boss be able to escape? With 300,000 people experiencing it inside, time in the collective ruin passed extremely slowly. As of now, a full 50 days had passed inside, but only 1 day had passed in the real world. It was still around 7 p.m. on March 2nd. For those not participating, today was just a normal day of evacuation out at sea. I'm just worried something unexpected might happen. Don't call me a coward. Go outside and look. Who in this village isn't worried? Qi Qin held his cold cup of tea, downing it in one gulp without tasting a thing. His brows were furrowed deeply, clearly worried sick. Right, and who knows when this disaster resistance livestream will even air. I heard from the guys who just came out that the ruin is a total mess right now. Pirates are everywhere. There's even this one guy. Oh right, Supreme General Xing Daorong, or whatever. He's leading the pirates, burning, killing, and looting wherever he goes. It's super dangerous in there. As the intelligence captain, Pei Xiao had shifted his entire focus to gathering news from the collective ruin. In just over a day, what started as a few scattered people withdrawing had now formed a massive wave of retreats. The World Channel, and even the Disaster Resistance Channel, were livelier than ever. Those who reached a level 4 title, aside from official members, were mostly quick-witted opportunists. Not hitting level 5 didn't matter. Instead, they used their current titles to farm gossip. Opening the Disaster Resistance livestream page, the guy who once taught the whole world how to get a level 1 title, Garfield, had now officially become a streamer commentating on the ruined situation. Right at the climax, he changed his stream title to Network's #1 POV, the great chaos of the collective ruin world and secrets to upgrading titles. Just the stream title alone, combined with his previous face reveal in the tutorial clip, caused his viewer count to instantly explode to a terrifying 25 billion. Right at the moment when the dark night was about to give way to dawn, 25 billion people were crammed into that live stream. just waiting for the latest news from the collective ruin, and more importantly, the secret to upgrading titles. Welcome, level 20s, to the stream. Welcome, level 30 big shots. The tutorial will start shortly. Once we hit 30 billion views, I'll unlock the guide for the level 4 title upgrade. Grind tens of millions of points in just a few days. Simple tricks anyone can do. Oh, I see everyone is very interested in the situation inside the collective ruin, right? Perfect timing. Someone in my shelter just got eliminated from inside. Let's invite Hanbai up to share an insider's perspective. Every time the view count increased by 10 billion, the level of the livestream supply box would go up a tier. Seeing the stream drop a billion views because he was intentionally baiting, Garfield immediately signaled the person behind him to get ready. Thanks to his quick reaction, the views stopped dropping. And the moment Hanbai stepped out, his deeply annoyed expression instantly piqued the curiosity of the entire audience. If you guys just want to hear made-up stories for fun, forget it. The World Channel and other streams are full of that garbage. But if you really want to know what the collective ruin in the wasteland is actually like, then sit tight and listen. Hanbai's face was gloomy, clearly pissed off to the bone. His opening line was like a needle prick, pushing the audience's curiosity even higher. Receiving Garfield's signal, he didn't drag it out and got straight to the point. Currently, there are a total of 8 professions for players to choose from in the collective ruin. The easiest is military household, the default profession. Anyone can pick it from the start. Just follow the tutorial and you're in. Professions that are a bit harder but manageable if you use your brain: merchant, sailor, and scholar. These are 2-star professions. Grinding points is a bit tough, but the rewards are sweet. The 3-star professions are politician and slave owner. Moderate difficulty, but the payoff is worth it. The 4-star profession is a bit twisted, restricted lord. And finally, the 5-star profession that the madman Xing Daorong chose, free lord. These 8 professions form the basic framework for all players in the trial. As for the alien races, I'm not sure, but it's probably similar. For the first 10 days, the entire deep-sea world was strangely peaceful. Since this is a test and allows you to withdraw at any time, everyone was just focused on doing quests. No one caused trouble. But on the 10th day, everything started to change. Hanbai slammed his hand on the wooden board, gritting his teeth, clearly bitter to the core. That's right, it's Supreme General Xing Daorong, the guy holding over 8 million reward points. He's the one who threw the entire sea into chaos. He pulled out tens of thousands of slaves. Pirates are running rampant like blood-sucking parasites. His ship is the most advanced naval warship. No one knows where that warship came from. But before I got eliminated, I saw with my own eyes that he had overhauled his fleet for the second time. His slave count exceeded 200,000, and he had 25 warships in his expeditionary fleet. Mentioning the warships, Hanbai's eyes lost focus. The audience realized that even now, he still couldn't understand how someone could amass such a massive fleet in such a short time. They have volley-firing muskets, a complete ammunition supply chain, and even explosives. His slaves are like absolute lunatics. The moment they see an enemy ship, they launch suicide attacks, sinking the whole ship with them. There's basically no chance to even fight back. If nothing changes, by the 90th day in the ruin, which is tomorrow, this entire world will be ruled by Xing Daorong. In that moment, the live stream went dead silent. The comments slowed to a crawl. Right after, the view count spiked to 27 billion, then closed in on the 30 billion mark. This made Garfield grin from ear to ear, his mind already calculating how to optimize the value of the super supply box. A level 5 title? What's the big deal? We're on the defending side anyway, not going out to sea to fight. That title doesn't give any buffs on land. It's just a decoration. But just as he was secretly gloating, the view count suddenly plummeted. Like it was slashed in half, in the blink of an eye, it dropped straight from 30 billion to 14 billion, then continued to freefall below 1 billion in less than 10 seconds. Did something happen in the ruin? Just as the thought flashed, a blinding flash of lightning tore through the sky. A thunderclap roared like divine punishment, echoing through the space, giving Garfield goosebumps and making his hair stand on end. An omen of the apocalypse. He hastily shut off the stream, opened the door, and rushed outside. and the sight that greeted him was something he would never forget for the rest of his life. A mountain. A mountain made entirely of pitch-black seawater. Under the shadow of that ocean mountain, the Blue Mountain Range, which had once been a solid shield for the shelter, now looked pitifully small. The game interface flashed a glaring red warning. The notification stated that the tsunami, which was supposed to appear after 70 days, had arrived early for some reason, and its damage was increased by 25%. What the hell is this? Amidst the blaring survival warnings in his head, Garfield staggered backward and slumped to the ground. But strangely, in this life-or-death moment, what popped into his head wasn't how to escape, but the notebook he had obtained 3 days ago after capturing an alien ship, a notebook recording how to get titles and tricks to exploit title upgrades. City Lord. I told you, don't call me City Lord. Call me Commander. In a small but luxuriously furnished study, a merman wearing heavy armor, about 1.6 meters tall with a muscular build, knelt on one knee. His eyes were resolute, his face covered in battle scars. Just one look at his aura, and you'd know he had survived the battlefield for years. But when the voice behind the desk rang out, he still trembled slightly. Yes, Commander. Your subordinate obeys. What is it? Speak. Seeing that I wasn't angry, he regained his composure, still not daring to look up, and quickly reported. Commander, Squad 9 has captured the Imperial capital. Squad 4 has taken control of the twin cities of the Sea Emperor. The Amaga Island, handled by Squad 13, has also been fully subjugated. Currently, the scattered guard units have all retreated behind the lines at the Jiayu Strait, gathering at Nathlo Bay and Zaz fishing port. The church has also abandoned their positions and fully retreated to the Daya archipelago. Should we continue the pursuit, push the front line back to seize their supply depots, and wipe them out completely? The Jiayu Strait was located in the bottom right corner of the Deep Sea World map. Crossing this strait and passing a few more bays would lead to the Daya archipelago, which connected straight to the mainland. Forcing people who had lived at the bottom of the sea for hundreds of years to retreat all the way here was enough to prove that this war was nearing its end. And the reason this merman warrior was terrified was because he knew very well, from the moment the war truly began until now, only 63 days had passed. Winning this fast wasn't because of the frontline fleet fighting to the death, nor was it due to the coordination of the civilians in the rear. It certainly wasn't because some legendary figure suddenly joined the fray. It was because, no rush on that. Where's the person I told you to pick up? How far are they from the capital? Hearing this, the merman warrior paused slightly but immediately replied, Commander, the person you asked for boarded the ship 3 days ago. If nothing unexpected happens, they will arrive this afternoon. Very good. Once this is done, I'll record a major merit for you. Feeling my large, warm hand on his shoulder, the merman warrior still didn't dare look up, only respectfully replying. But right after, his head was forced up, and a smiling face appeared before his eyes. It was me. All right, EU. From now on, until my Academy of Sciences makes a new technological breakthrough, absolutely do not launch a full-scale assault. They only have one food production port left. Don't rush to wipe them out. Find a way to blow it up and let them starve. When the time comes, I will personally take the field. Hearing the word personally, EU shuddered, but the joy in his eyes was hard to hide. Pass down my orders. Prepare to welcome our VIP. Bring out all the fine wine and delicacies we've gathered recently. Also, starting now, throw a massive 3-day, 3-night feast in our capital. All prices are reduced by 20%. I want everyone to celebrate. Understood, Commander. Seeing that I was in a great mood, EU finally relaxed, smiling brightly like a child, before respectfully withdrawing from the grand study. 2 months. I'm finally going to see my sister again. Watching EU's figure disappear down the hallway, I closed the door, stretched, and comfortably sat back at my desk. In the top right corner of the interface, the leaderboard showed my points nearing the 10 million mark, second only to General Xing Daorong. And right now, Xing Daorong's identity was completely different from before. King of the deep sea world, incarnation of the sea god, legendary captain, legendary lord, creator of epic wars, rebel city lord, wealthy as a nation, 10-star wanted. Those 7 titles. just one of them falling into the hands of the guys behind me on the leaderboard, who only had a few 100,000 points, would be enough to change their lives. Commander's token, check my current available Sea God Authority uses. Dear Ocean Commander Su Mo, your currently available Sea God Authority uses are, for general uses, 2 minor uses. TCH, I won a battle and didn't even get a major authority? What a pity. If I had known, I would have slowed down the attack. I waved my hand to dismiss the interface, looking at the strategic map in front of me. My mouth was complaining, but a bright smile curled on my lips. Much faster than expected, just 63 days, and I've almost conquered the entire deep-sea world. Even though I exploited loopholes, abused bugs, and spammed the Sea God Authority without holding back. This feeling of continuous victory was still indescribably satisfying. From the first battle with 2,000 men after becoming a free lord, every time I won a battle, the commander's token rewarded me with corresponding Sea God Authority. Thanks to this default mechanic, I was able to build an empire from scratch in 60 days and deploy fleets to every key area. I used the authority freely, while the enemy could only grit their teeth and endure it. Retracting my thoughts, I cleaned up my desk, carefully put away the documents, and stood up to walk outside. The courtyard here wasn't large, but its luxury was beyond question, from pearls scattered everywhere to vibrant coral reefs. Everything proved that the master of this place was no ordinary person. Crossing the small garden and turning a corner, the view suddenly opened up. Before my eyes was an open-air hot spring, white steam rising into the air, and at the end of the spring was the endless, vast ocean. Hey, shrimp soldier, bring me a fresh set of clothes. I have an important guest to entertain today. Understood, Commander. Watching the shrimp soldier hurry off, I took off my clothes and leisurely jumped into the hot spring. Half an hour later, changed into clean clothes, I walked straight into the kitchen to prepare the meal with the chef. 2 months in the wasteland, 2 months conquering the deep sea. All in all, I've been away from my sister for over 4 months. On Earth, that's just a semester, but in this world, where you could lose your life any day. Cooking this meal made me restless. All my thoughts were filled with images of Su-chan laughing and joking in the past. Commander, why don't you go rest? Let us handle this. Seeing me cooking with my head in the clouds, throwing away the good meat, and tossing a fishy fish head into the pot, the chef immediately noticed something was off. It's fine, I'm just... Before I could finish, I caught a glimpse of the familiar figure of the crab general guarding the gate out of the corner of my eye. And for him to come at this time, there was only one possibility. I tossed the pot in my hand, rushed over, grabbed his crab claw, and asked frantically, "Are they here?" "Yes, they've arrived." That feeling was like dropping a Mentos into a Coke, an instant explosion. Ignoring the crab general still waddling on the ground, I shot off like an arrow, not caring about my majestic commander image anymore, and sprinted straight for the main gate. From the kitchen to the gate, I had to pass through 3 gardens I had proudly designed, but right now I just wanted to smash them to pieces. Luckily, after passing the second garden and turning a corner, right next to a blooming sea soul flower, I finally saw the figure I had missed day and night. Su-chan. I'm right here. Hearing me practically yell, Su-chan was slightly startled. But immediately after, she reacted, her face beaming like the newly bloomed sea soul flower, flashing a silly, joyful smile. As she stood up, the flower buds beside her swayed gently, as if cheering for this reunion. The next second, she flew up, and I caught her with one arm, lifting her off the ground. What took you so long? I saw you on the leaderboard, but you still didn't come early. Any slower, and I would have conquered the entire deep-sea world. Perhaps sensing the excitement in my voice, Su-chan just gently shook her head without saying a word, then hugged me a little tighter. I felt it very clearly. It was the bond of blood, a connection that couldn't be severed no matter how many civilizations or dimensions separated us. It was like an older brother who had just survived a massive earthquake, finally running home to see his little sister safe and sound. Words couldn't describe that feeling. Silence was the best language for this moment. The hug lasted for 4 or 5 minutes before Su-chan finally let go first. But her first words instantly made my expression change. Something might have happened in the wasteland. And it's not a small matter. What? What happened? I have an ability to communicate with animals, and to a certain extent, establish a telepathic link. Before, on the tundra, I linked with many of the animals we brought, especially the treasure fish. But starting yesterday, almost all the links broke simultaneously. Even the animals still on the ship started losing connection. The tension instantly spiked. The cloud of anxiety that had just dispersed gathered once again. What exactly happened in the wasteland? In the deep-sea world, in just 60 short days, I had become a king. I became the sea god's representative, the iron-blooded commander whose very name made every creature at the bottom of the sea tremble. But only I knew that this trial was nothing more than a super-realistic grand strategy game for me. Relying on high-level sea god authority, my fleet could close in on the enemy's lair in seconds and deliver a fatal blow. Relying on the 10-star wanted level, even though the official organizations had retreated behind the Jeju Strait. Every day, 5 heavy naval warships loaded with precious supplies would automatically dock at White Sand Island. From the battle with the 20,000 aliens, what I gained were the infrastructure blueprints for the tech tree. I originally planned to bring them back to the wasteland to test, but ended up pouring all my effort into the deep-sea world, creating a series of brilliant achievements. But even now, I never forgot. My roots were still in the wasteland. In the study, I sat behind the desk, my eyes deep in thought, but a heroic aura still emanated from between my brows. Suchan stood beside me, not wanting to disturb me, just quietly looking at me with eyes full of admiration. On the way back on the ship, hearing others talk about the current Sumo, she had felt a slight sense of unfamiliarity. But that feeling vanished completely after just a few minutes of hugging. It was replaced by the familiarity of the older brother she always trusted. When I left, Liu Yongyi arranged some fixed wooden rafts at the tundra shelter, leaving food and animals for me to maintain surveillance through the telepathic link. That was a really smart move. The treasure fish pulling the tundra would automatically disperse after I left. And for a telepathic link to break, it only happens when they face a life-or-death situation. Yet now, the treasure fish and the creatures in the rear almost all lost connection at the same time. So this isn't a might-have. It's a certainty disaster has struck. Only a massive disaster engulfing the entire wasteland could simultaneously affect such a wide range of creatures. I tapped lightly on the polished desk, my eyes scanning the compiled information, slowly calming down after the initial panic. Currently, there are still some creatures on the tundra that haven't lost connection, which proves this disaster is still in its early stages. The tundra still has the ability to defend itself. It hasn't reached the point of capsizing yet. If the tundra can hold out, then Hope, with its quality far surpassing wooden warships, will definitely have no problem. The situation isn't desperate yet. A disaster? But isn't the tsunami still 70 days away? The disaster is just the outward manifestation, the real controller behind it. Never mind, it's complicated. You just need to remember, disasters don't necessarily happen at the scheduled time. They can come early, or they can come late. If you stick to the usual mindset to survive in the wasteland, sooner or later you'll get hit with a fatal combo. Looking at Su Chan's innocent face, I hesitated for a moment, ultimately deciding not to reveal the connection between the disasters and the game. Changing the subject, I continued analyzing. Based on the speed of the disconnections you mentioned, plus the spread, this disaster definitely started at sea. And if it's affected the bottom of the sea, there's an 80 to 90% chance that the tsunami scheduled for 70 days later has been pushed forward. Just like last time when I intentionally turned the third disaster into a disaster bonus. This time, the wasteland is falling into a similar situation. Doesn't that mean everyone is about to be washed away by the water? Theoretically, yes. I sighed. This tsunami lasts for 7 days. On the very last day, its power is pushed to the absolute limit. For the first few days, players' wooden rafts can still hold out. But on the final day, even the tundra might not survive. No, I'm 100% sure. On the final day, the tundra absolutely won't make it. Under the might of a true natural disaster, humans who have only survived for 2 months are no different from ants. Squad 4, hurry up. Bring the waterproof sandbags over here. There's a 30-minute gap between each tsunami wave. This is the golden window for rescue. You are trained militia, the core strength of our forces. Within 20 minutes, You must seal all the leaks. After 20 minutes, no matter where you are, retreat immediately. If you die, it's on you. Squads 1 and 2, clear out the storage space. Immediately move the supplies from the underground reserve and stack them in the space the other squad just cleared. Squad 8, monitor the sea level. If there's any abnormal reading, report it immediately. Squad 9, same as squads 1 and 2, clear out your personal inventories. Every treasure fish swept in by the tsunami, store them all in your inventories. Squad 10, keep a close eye on the World Channel and monitor the latest warnings. The next tsunami wave hits in 3 minutes and 22 seconds. Everyone get ready. On the peak of Iron Rock Mountain, Chun Shun held 2 megaphones, shouting orders like a market vendor, practically going crazy. His voice was loud, but under the freezing drizzle, in the dark night occasionally torn by lightning, it was still too small. Rumble. Boom, boom, boom. Splash, splash, splash. Wave after wave of tsunamis relentlessly crashed into the side of Iron Rock Mountain, creating deafening explosions that felt like they would tear eardrums apart. Every time a wave hit, the faces of those waiting for orders couldn't hide their primal fear. On Earth, in the civilized era, for the people of Huaxia, seeing a tsunami with their own eyes was extremely rare. So rare that even people living by the coast, from birth to death, might only see a tsunami on TV or the news. Tracing back through history, before the transmigration, the last recorded tsunami was in 1923. Of course, the tsunamis here weren't like the earthquake-triggered ones on Earth, lacking the seismic tremors and characteristic destructive power. But even so, driven by a mysterious force, each wave still brought an overwhelming sense of shock to people accustomed to modern life. 15 seconds left. Everyone get ready. Report. Captain, we're stuck here on Iron Rock Mountain. What about the boss? Shut up, Lu Shuiquan. Drop those thoughts. Today, even if you die, I die, or all of us die, the boss will be fine. Hope is the strongest warship in the wasteland. It won't be sunk. And the boss is the same. Hope is invincible. Remember the word I said, invincible. Time's up. Everyone move. Woof woof. Meow. Squeak squeak squeak. It's flipping. It's tilting. Don't rush me. Let me remember. Page 38 of the First Mate's Manual, line 4. When encountering abnormal massive waves and the ship tilts over 25 degrees, you must. Everyone, brace yourselves. Quick, get the aliens down to the lower deck. With waves this big, we have to seal all the leak-prone areas and activate emergency shelter mode. In the pitch-black night, the sea surface where Hope was sailing had become like a giant trampoline. Like a noodle stretched taut in a chef's hands, the sea was continuously lifted and rolled down by an invisible force, making Hope rise and fall like a roller coaster. Unlike the shallow waters near Hope Village, Hope had entered the true deep sea after a week of sailing. On Earth, because tsunamis are long waves that can stretch for hundreds of kilometers, while ships only move a few dozen kilometers per hour, in the deep ocean, people barely feel a tsunami. Even during the terrifying 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, in deep waters, the waves were less than a meter high. But the wasteland was different. Because a mysterious force was directly lifting the sea surface, even the deep sea clearly felt every tsunami wave. Different areas had different wave heights, meaning no matter what kind of ship you piloted, you had to experience all levels of waves from low to high. Even while sailing, Hope was suddenly attacked by waves surging over 30 meters high. Just like the wave mountains I once created with the ocean wave whistle, these types of waves, once they exceeded a certain height, would lose their mysterious power and crash down into the sea like a waterfall with a deafening boom. Although they created an earth-shattering roar, to Hope, they caused no damage. But if it were a wooden ship that wasn't sturdy enough, it would be a catastrophe. After confirming all the aliens had retreated to the lower deck, I rushed out and tightly shut the bridge door. On the sea surface right now, just as Chin Shun had shouted, Hope was truly invincible. Where the naked eye couldn't see, Hope's bow began to emit a faint blue light. The rare-grade wave-breaker effect was activated. An invisible force enveloped the entire hull. No matter how the sea roared, it didn't slow the ship down. Instead, it went faster and faster. Cruising speed of 35 knots, plus an 18% buff, reaching 41 knots. Maximum speed of 45 knots, plus the buff, a terrifying 53 knots. Meaning, in the midst of a raging storm, Hope could tear through at 100 kilometers per hour. Even the giant beasts of the deep sea could only watch helplessly as a ferocious beast tore past them, leaving behind a wake that defied logic. Wind doesn't exist. Waves, consider them gone. This beast was invincible on the sea, with the rule that the deeper you go, the stronger the waves, and the stronger the wave breaker effect. Hope could cover 2,700 kilometers in just one day. The distance of over 10,000 kilometers that I once thought impossible. At this speed, it would only take 4 days. Brother, do we really have to go back? What if we just stay in this deep sea world for a while, wait out the 7 days of disaster, and then go back? Wouldn't that be safer? Deep Sea World, Day 65, 9:30 a.m. After our final luxurious breakfast, seeing me stand up, Soo-chan finally couldn't hold back and blurted out the words she had been choking on since last night. Yesterday, when she saw me issue nearly 100 orders in a row, she guessed what I was planning to do. I wanted to go back. I wanted to return to the wasteland that was suffering from a great disaster. She even understood very well that all of this was for her. Compared to the dangerous wasteland, the deep sea world right now was like a vacation paradise. Here, there were hot springs to soak in until your whole body relaxed, and hundreds of shrimp soldiers and crab generals serving you every day. There were delicacies you could eat until you were sick of them. Here, I was the king. With just a word, billions of sea creatures had to bow and obey. But Soo-chan understood, that place allowed no mistakes. One failure meant death. If we couldn't survive the tsunami, the only option left was to be trapped in the deep sea world forever. Last night, the two of us slept in the same room. I told her everything since I set foot in the wasteland. Making my first bucket of gold thanks to the chameleon, opening Ma Gu's fallout shelter, the grudges with the kobolds and lion men, from my first kill to slaying a god, from planting the first crop to filling the food storage. Leaving out the system, the game, or luck, I recounted day by day. I sounded like a nagging mother, yet also like a child waiting for praise. I talked a lot, even describing the pitch-black night sky as if waiting for the brilliant dawn ahead. But that legend of God Sue only went up to the part where the villagers of Hope Village moved up Iron Rock Mountain. Soo-chan listened to me all night, as if reading a deeply emotional autobiography. At the thrilling parts, she jumped in fright, clutching the blanket tightly. At the harvest parts, she rejoiced like a little bee, making happy buzzing sounds. But listening from night until morning, the only thing she was certain of was that I was carrying a massive burden on my shoulders. Haha, stop dreaming. 7 days outside is almost a year in here. How could this fictional world handle such a long simulation? Besides, don't overthink it. I'm not going back immediately. I still have a few days. I'll wipe out the remaining enemies in the deep sea before leaving. Until then, you just stay here and relax. Stay as long as you can. Who knows, by the time you exit the deep sea world, my ship might be waiting right outside for you. As I spoke, I gently rubbed Soo-chan's head, my eyes full of confidence. And these words weren't just to comfort myself. According to the data, the tsunami was never a match for Hope. It could even act as a propellant. After calculating that it would only take 4 to 5 days to close in on the tundra's area, I decided to go back. But before that, I would wipe out the last remnants in the deep sea world and claim the biggest reward, the final flap of the butterfly Soo-mo's wings in this place. After reassuring Soo-chan with a few promises, I turned and left decisively. Family is a very strange thing. When you don't have it, it's the motivation pushing you forward. When you do have it, it becomes an incredibly powerful source of energy. But on one condition, you can't wallow in it for too long. I understood that, because this meeting was like the moon's reflection in the water. The wasteland was the real main stage. The next day, I officially entered a busy state. Whatever could be brought in from the wasteland could also be taken out from here. After checking with the commander's token, I confirmed I could put items into my inventory and leave the deep sea world. With only one condition, the items couldn't exceed the rare grade. Even so, I never planned to take the things the system deemed important. What I was aiming for was the foundation. At the foot of the mountain, My first destination was the Agricultural Institute beneath the towering architecture on White Sand Island. This place gathered over 60% of the top agricultural experts in the entire deep sea, their sole mission being to collect and crossbreed high-quality seeds. After some selection, I took hundreds of improved seeds: wheat, rice, potatoes, pumpkins, bok choy, mustard greens, carrots, cotton, peanuts. Then I visited the auxiliary garden to grab fruit seeds like watermelon, melon, peach, mango, and apple. I even took all the plants that required special conditions. Even so, all of this combined only took up about a third of the cleared inventory space. Once packed, I moved on to a massive complex of buildings, the key to the rapid industrial revolution and the place I valued most in the entire deep sea. Looking at the three large words Academy of Sciences written by my own hand hanging above, I puffed out my chest and walked in. A while later, when my inventory was almost overflowing with technical documents, research manuals, and maintenance guides, I finally concluded my trip with satisfaction. These documents contained about 7% of the content of a complete basic tech tree. Don't underestimate that number. This was compared to Earth's science, which had accumulated over hundreds, even thousands of years. Even though the technology wasn't new and already existed on Earth, for the wasteland that was still in its infancy, this was the most precious resource. As long as we studied it thoroughly, Hope Village 2.0 on the new continent wouldn't be a distant dream. Tap water, clean villages, living conditions no worse than a modern city. The missing links in the weapon technology chain, a long-standing headache, would also be heavily compensated, paving the way for a massive leap in the weapon tech tree. All of this was the plan I had secretly prepared over the past 60 days. Even though I still didn't know the true cause of the Great War or who the real enemy was, after sorting everything out and seeing things get on track, I felt much more at ease. Day 66. Under the expectant gaze of billions of deep-sea creatures, I, the invincible king, the spokesperson of the sea god, the iron-blooded commander, officially announced the attack plan. When this war maniac declared he would wipe out all enemies in 20 days, no one dared to speak up, let alone doubt it. Even the Sea God Church, the organization that had held power for thousands of years, immediately entered a state of emergency war. Without the sea god's protection, the high priest's powers were strictly limited: 1 minor use per week, 1 medium use per month, and 1 unlimited use per year. Meanwhile, I still had 2 general uses and 4 minor uses. Day 67. My fleet left White Sand Island, carrying all our military equipment, leaving the starting point that would surely be recorded in deep-sea history. Day 71. Using 1 minor authority to speed up, 20 high-tier warships carrying nearly 100,000 elite troops arrived at the front line. Day 74. Another minor authority and 1 general authority were activated. All forces were in position, reaching a total scale of 1.6 million soldiers, including 105 high-tier warships, 220 second-tier warships, and nearly 1,000 specialized vessels. If this were medieval Earth, just the preparation phase would be measured in years. But with the authority, something even more overpowered than hacks. Even the enemy's high priest could only exclaim, weirdly logical. Day 77. It was only the 10th day since I declared I would wipe out the enemy in 20 days, and the first battle unexpectedly broke out. But the one who initiated it wasn't me. It was a sneak attack from the Sea God Church. In the dead of night, on the vast sea, over 80,000 troops and more than 30 warships silently closed in. The two sides fought fiercely for over 10 hours before a victor emerged. The result: the entire sneak attack force was completely annihilated. My side also suffered significant losses. But it didn't matter. By using 2 general authorities, 95% of the soldiers killed in action were instantly resurrected. All destroyed warships were restored to their original state in the blink of an eye. This kind of miracle, amidst the earth-shattering cheers of over 1 million expeditionary troops, caused the enemy's psychology to completely collapse. Damn it, when we die for real. When they die, they come back to life. How the hell are we supposed to play this? Day 79. After a day of resting the troops, the war resumed. And this time, I was the one who initiated it. No one expected that the strongest guard force in the deep-sea world, the sea god's royal guard, which had suppressed rebellions for thousands of years, would be smashed to pieces in just half a day by an expeditionary army armed to the teeth with automatic weapons. The rear logistics hub, Zaz fishing port, also couldn't escape the storm-like assault of the special ops team named Tyrant. In a massive fireworks display that lit up the entire sea, the Sea God Church's logistics completely collapsed. This war had only been going on for 3 days, but I could already smell victory in the wind. Day 80. The Jeju Strait was officially occupied. All Sea God guards and church forces retreated to the Daya archipelago, preparing for a final fight to the death. But what they didn't expect was that right inside the church, someone I had won over secretly betrayed them, raising the flag of rebellion. Day 82. Exactly 15 days after I called for the deployment, the Sea God's royal guard was completely wiped out. A quick, clean death. They drank poisoned wine offered by their own people during dinner, quietly stepping into death. Day 84. The expeditionary army surrounded the entire Daya archipelago. The remnants of the church became fish in a barrel, birds in a cage. Through the sound transmission conch, a special creature that could broadcast images and sound. All sea creatures following the war were stunned to find that this battle had only lasted exactly 17 days, yet it was already nearing a perfect end. The total casualties of the expeditionary army were less than 100,000, yet they had unified the entire deep-sea world. The whole world boiled over. Millions of creatures cheered in joy. The sea god's theocratic ideology finally collapsed. The era of brutal taxation by the church, which had lasted for thousands of years, officially ended. Under the banner of their new commander, they would step into a completely different era. Day 87. On the exact final day I had declared the war would end within 20 days, a mysterious screen of light appeared in the sky above all the major cities of the deep-sea world. This was the anomaly created when I used my final medium authority. The function of the light screen was simple, broadcasting images. But when they saw the image clearly, all the sea creatures were dumbfounded. In the image, High Priest Aaron, who used to appear only once a year, bringing the sea god's miracles with him every time, now looked like a dead dog, pinned to the ground by 4 muscular mermen. In front of him were ocean waves crashing against the shore, spraying white foam. In the distance was the endless expanse of the mainland plains. This was the border between the deep sea and the continent. Aaron had tried to flee, but unfortunately, he was caught. Commander, everything I have, I offer to you. Please spare my life. Wearing a luxurious golden cloak and a jewel-encrusted crown, Aaron begged pitifully. Seeing that I was completely unmoved, he scrambled up, took off his crown, stripped off his cloak, and placed them neatly on the ground. He even pulled out his scepter, the item that gave him his fixed authority, and laid it down, signaling total surrender. Kneel before my gun barrel. Kneel. A gunshot rang out like thunder. The sea god's scepter was blasted in half, its divine light extinguishing. In a panic, Aaron looked up and saw the bloodshot eyes full of killing intent behind my thick black armor. His legs gave out, and he slumped to the ground. Day 89. The news of High Priest Aaron's death spread across the deep-sea world. The funny part was, the one who killed him wasn't me, but a farmer on the mainland. I let Aaron go, giving him a 2-day head start to run. But driven mad by hunger, he sneaked into a farmer's house to steal food. The owner, who had just returned, mistook him for a melon thief and stabbed him through the heart with a knife before he could even scream. Day 90. A simple coronation ceremony was held right on the warship. Immediately after, amplified by the sound transmission conch, 248 basic laws and 108 production support policies were issued, spreading across the entire deep-sea world. For the first time in thousands of years of theocratic oppression, the people saw science, witnessed the power of machinery, and were allowed to imagine a brilliant future. And from this day on, the era of theocracy officially ended. The Industrial Revolution had begun, exiting the collective ruin. Checking the player's current progress and score. Congratulations to Ocean Commander Su Mo. You ranked first with a total score of 12,800,000. Title upgraded to Level 5, Grand Admiral of the Ocean. The system confirms you have completed all trial stages. Distributing rewards. The familiar pitch black void appeared again. The place I had to pass through every time I left a ruin and returned to the wasteland. The system notification about distributing rewards repeated in my ears. I waved my hand in the air, looking completely bewildered. Over the past 20 days, after wiping out the church's last enemies and kick-starting the Industrial Revolution, before I even had much time to chat with my sister, I chose to exit the ruin. As of now, the accumulated rewards had reached stage 150. The reward this time was an ultra-rare 3-star resource card and a rare-grade blueprint. If you count the title upgrade, plus the pile of documents and seeds sitting safely in my inventory, this collective ruin trip was a massive profit. But the problem was, after hearing the reward distribution notification repeat for nearly 5 minutes, I started to genuinely panic. Damn it, did Hope malfunction and sink? Or is the system stuck because it can't find my coordinates from when I logged in? The moment the thought flashed, I shuddered, but dismissed it a few seconds later. It wasn't that the system couldn't find the teleportation point, but rather, it was stuck right at the reward distribution phase. Could it be that this 3-star resource card and rare-grade blueprint exceeded the current scope? The game wasn't prepared, so it couldn't process it in time? That doesn't make sense. With the scale of this game, those little rewards are nothing. Wait, am I stuck in a bug? My mind racing. I tried summoning the system, confirming it was still operating normally. I couldn't just sit still and wait for death, so I started taking action. Before, I never had the time to observe this black space because I'd get kicked out right after the rewards were given. But this time, with the notification buzzing in my ear like a mosquito, I groped my way to the edge of the space. It was about 400 square meters, not too big, not too small. Touching the edge, I hit an invisible wall of air, but it was unbelievably hard. I summoned my 3-pointed, double-edged polearm and took a few test swings. At first, the recoil was massive, but after a few strikes, the wall started softening like taffy. The force of the slashes was instantly absorbed. Even using all my strength, I couldn't deal any significant damage. It was completely unbreakable. How bizarre. Hard as steel at first, then soft as glue. If this stuff was used for shields or armor, it'd be a super energy-absorbing material. Putting away the polearm, I pulled out my machine gun and fired a few dozen rounds. The result was the same, unbreakable. So I changed direction and started pulling every item out of my inventory to check. In the hazy void, seeds and documents fell like rain, then flew back. Every time I took them out and put them back, I checked them carefully. All the resources brought from the deep-sea world were fine. I continued checking the items from the wasteland, food, water, graded items, even pulling out the mountain and sea painting scroll to inspect. Is it really a system bug? Being locked in here forever isn't good. As I put the painting scroll back into storage, I reviewed the entire process in the collective ruin while unconsciously pulling out more items. And right when I took out the heaven-stealing talisman, preparing to put it back out of habit, a change occurred. The pitch-black space, where even the system's light couldn't shine, suddenly lit up. The heaven-stealing talisman floated up on its own the moment it appeared, emitting a faint but clear light. The system notification instantly fell silent. Swish. Crash. The sound of ocean waves echoed. At first, it was very faint, but it quickly grew clearer. I looked at the talisman hovering in front of me. I couldn't control it at all, but I didn't try to stop it either. Just like the test before inspecting Hope, the familiar sound of waves echoed again. Only this time it was clearer and more resonant. And mixed in with the sound of the waves was an incredibly soft voice, like a mosquito's whisper. At the same time, in the pitch-black space, a faint illusion gradually appeared. If it were daytime, no one would have noticed it. But in this absolute darkness, it instantly caught my eye. There were people walking along the beach, talking. Wait, the person on the left is the exact same figure I saw in the heaven-stealing talisman before. Even though the image was blurry, with my eyesight and observation skills, I quickly recognized the old-fashioned pocket watch worn on that person's ankle. Such a unique outfit. I only needed to see it once to remember. And for some reason, seeing them again in this void, a strong intuition surged within me. If I could hear their conversation, the secrets buried by time in the wasteland would be revealed. Unfortunately, the sound of the waves was too loud, and what they were speaking wasn't a human language, but complex, bizarre syllables of unknown origin. Strings of tangled sounds flew out, fading into the void. Wait, damn it. I just missed something incredibly important. Why did the native inhabitants of the deep-sea world speak Chinese? This wasn't a game translation. They spoke fluent Chinese and wrote Chinese characters proficiently. In the era of prosperity, humanity hadn't even transmigrated here yet. Why did they know Chinese? While pondering that strange language, a spark of suspicion suddenly flashed in my mind. The era of prosperity used Chinese, and so did these two. The coincidence was terrifying. Could it be that this game existed even back in that era? Or had someone from a parallel Earth arrived here before me? I couldn't hear the content of their conversation, but a storm was brewing in my mind. The abnormal puzzle pieces were slowly coming together. To other players, this collective ruin was nothing special. But to me, the one who knew about the sea god, the era of prosperity, the great war from years ago, and the true nature of the game, everything was way too bizarre. The logic was starting to derail. After nearly 100 days of investigation, I still hadn't found the cause of the Great War, nor had I seen the true enemy. But if I used this new logical chain as a foundation to deduce? Staring intently at the two mysterious floating figures, my eyes lit up. A bold, even crazy thought flashed through my mind. Right after, the blue system panel appeared before me. Following my thought, green threads representing appraisal shot straight toward the figure on the right. The system couldn't appraise unowned inanimate objects, but it had never failed with living creatures. Even the heavenly hound was dissected by the system in just a few seconds. Last time I used the heaven-stealing talisman, I tried appraising the mysterious figure but got no response. This time was different. The moment the green thread swept over the person on the right, two complete attribute panels popped up instantly. Character A. Friendly. Description: a creature extremely friendly towards you. Because the system's current level was too low, I couldn't see the detailed attributes. To scan again, I'd have to upgrade the system first. Abilities: unknown. Evaluation: young man, running into a big shot like this, why aren't you rolling on the ground throwing a tantrum to demand compensation? Sea god, era of prosperity. Neutral 12%. Description: this is a phantom left behind by the sea god of the era of prosperity. Its main task is to monitor behavior during the title upgrade trial and handle the final reward distribution. Abilities: unknown. Evaluation: you have 5 choices. 1. Lie on the ground, clutch your stomach, and scream. I want to go home. I'm not playing anymore. Please let me go, you two. Reward -60%. Affection -100%. Immediately return to the wasteland. 2. Clap your hands, look up with starry eyes, and praise. Amazing. Truly worthy of a real god. Hearing one word from you is like being enlightened. Reward -30%. Affection -15%. Immediately return to the wasteland. 3. Sneer disdainfully, coldly spitting out. Your vision is too narrow. Reward remains unchanged. Affection +5%, but you must pass a special trial. Failure results in affection -100% and all rewards lost. 4. Pound your chest and shout loudly, your left eye burning. The deep-sea world is rotten to the core. From now on, I, Uzumaki Naruto, will forge a new path and become a true pioneer of reform. Reward +50%, affection +20%. Accept a time-limited quest. Failure results in affection -500% and permanent loss of the heaven-stealing talisman. 5. Activate the true god identity. Reward remains unchanged. Receive an additional reward worth 5,000%. Directly upgrade to level 9 title, Sea God's Envoy. Affection maxed out. The price: you must quickly find the residence of the wasteland sea god. If the system detects the loss of the heaven-stealing talisman, affection from all gods drops to 0. As for the mysterious person on the left, the system only displayed friendly, and everything else was completely blank. But for the person on the right, all the information was glaringly clear. 2 gods from the era of prosperity, 5 choices. Fascinating, I muttered, rubbing the stubble on my chin, my eyes deep and unfathomable. While the 2 phantoms were still engrossed in their conversation, seemingly forgetting there was an anxious guy waiting to go home right beneath their feet. I didn't hold back anymore. A command echoed in my mind. Switch identity. In the next blink, I vanished, replaced by an existence exuding flawless aura from head to toe, arrogant as if declaring, I own shares here. I'm qualified to sit at this table. Yang Jian, the omnipotent godhood, with awe-inspiring authority, officially took the stage. That sight made both big shots turn their heads simultaneously, their eyes filled with shock and suspicion. Under that burning gaze, I just smiled faintly, indescribably calm. I'm not hiding it anymore. I'll just say it straight. I am also a god. When I returned, it was exactly the hour of the snake. The sun hung high, and the sea was dead calm. A faint salty breeze mixed with that familiar fishy smell brushed past my nose, clearing my head instantly. Looking at the familiar captain's quarters, the headset was still resting by the pillow. I picked it up and pressed it to my ear. Connie, attention. The next tsunami wave will hit in 3 minutes. Tell all the aliens to get ready. We're about to start rocking again. Over, Connie received, over. Woof woof woof. Oh, Sister Oreo, the tsunami is coming. This door won't open. If water gets in, Gongong's body will get wet. Page 24, line 3. Page 29, line 6. What is Eco doing? I'm the first mate. You're biting me. I'm telling Master. Big and Little Hua. Hold her down, quick. Still the same familiar voices. Still Moo Air's silly, noisy antics that make you laugh the moment you hear them. After listening for a few seconds, Oreo's whimpers grew louder, and I coughed softly twice. The earpiece instantly went dead silent. Then, an ear-piercing cheer erupted. Among them were Moo Air's joyful shouts, Big and Little Huahua's distorted screeches, Connie's excited yells, and even the cheers of the alien races in the background. I'm back, I said slowly. That noon, I made a series of calls. I called Chen Shun, Zhong Qingshu, and Shi Xin, who were holding down the fort with the villagers at Hope Village. I called Lu Yongyi and Shin Kai, who were still drifting on the ocean, bracing against the disaster. I called the head coach who taught me how to shoot. I called Li Xiufeng, who was rowing a canoe through the catastrophe. I called Sun Xian, who was surviving on just a few tires. Every call carried an indescribable joy. Through them, I grasped the entire situation after my disappearance, as well as the overall picture of the natural disaster on the Wasteland Sea. It is currently 12 p.m., March 4th, according to the Wasteland calendar. Originally, the tsunami wasn't supposed to hit for another 60 days. But now, it had arrived early. And the worst news, the marine mutants. They were supposed to fully descend 4 days later, but they suddenly appeared ahead of schedule. In other words, humanity's battle for survival had begun. There was no time to deeply ponder the information I just gathered, nor did I continue monitoring the World Channel. After confirming the situation hadn't reached absolute despair, I spun the pen in my hand and called Lu Yongyi back. This time, I wasn't asking about the Tundra ship, but the overall situation of the wasteland. Currently, there aren't many skirmishes at sea. Mostly, it's marine mutants, land mutants, and humans gathered in one place. If one side makes a move, it becomes a three-way brawl. Under these circumstances, humanity's win rate is only about 16%. I know it's extremely low, but for ordinary people, even fighting just one faction, the win rate wouldn't exceed 30%. Achieving even this much is entirely thanks to the title and the influence of the natural disaster. I frowned. Does the attack plan still have to proceed? Lu Yongyi replied decisively, it must proceed. Regardless of casualties, regardless of whether we reach the designated coordinates, in 5 days, when the tsunami peaks, this battle must happen. Otherwise, once the tsunami passes, all our remaining foundations on the sea will be completely wiped out. By then, humanity will be virtually extinct in this wasteland. Furthermore, the higher-ups are currently betting on something, and that something directly involves you. Oh, hearing myself mentioned, I asked softly. On the other end, Lu Yongyi didn't beat around the bush. Last time, when humanity was struggling through the second blizzard disaster, that monster on your end appeared and directly ended the entire catastrophe. That proves one thing. As long as a higher-tier disaster is created, the tsunami currently destroying this wasteland sea will immediately stop. Although actively triggering a high-tier disaster is like drinking poison to quench thirst, right now, it's the only path left for humanity. It's the only way out. His voice dropped significantly during those last few sentences. Emotionless, unwavering, so dry it sounded like he was reading a report. I knew that with his status, he had attended the strategic meeting deciding humanity's fate. And now, they were betting everything on me. The probability of success was almost zero, but it was the only thing humanity could still cling to. The people at the very top weren't stupid, nor were they living in a fantasy. It's just that in the face of a true natural disaster, they were only human. People who had struggled to survive for 64 days in this wasteland. After a few seconds of silence, I replied in a deep voice, I understand. There are 5 days left until the disaster peaks. During this time, you guys need to hold the line and try to minimize clashes with the mutants. The atmosphere on the other invisibly lightened. Liu Yongyi let out a breath, his voice carrying a forced sense of relief. You can rest assured on that front. Under the government's coordination, the regional communication channels have been fully utilized. Near the Tundra ship, we've gathered nearly 10 large ships and over 40 small boats. We're simulating the ancient Battle of Red Cliff strategy, using iron chains to link everything tightly together. As long as it's not the final wave of the tsunami, there's almost no risk of capsizing. Moreover, based on current trends, more and more warships are actively reaching out. In the next day or two, our forces could increase tenfold. By then, even if the mutants really attack, we'll have enough strength to wage war at sea. In this damn weather, the marine mutants won't have the upper hand either. If we're forced to fight, with the weapons and ammo you provided earlier, plus elite soldiers, we have a chance to win. Hearing his confident tone, the pressure in my heart eased a bit. After thinking for a moment, I continued, how about this? I still have some ammo left on my end. Have Shinkai contact me later. For now, consider it a loan for you guys to use first. Oh, what about you? Liu Yongyi was thrilled, but immediately grew worried. Me? I chuckled. Don't worry, I don't need that stuff anymore. With that, I decisively hung up. Waiting for the tsunami to temporarily subside, I immediately went down to the armory. Through the trading post, I transferred 10 machine guns, 20 rifles, and 50 handguns to the Tundra, along with 200,000 rounds of ammunition for each type. Because I had to cover half the shipping fee, this transaction practically emptied the ammo stash I brought when I set sail. But for the Tundra, those weapons were enough to fight to the bitter end, whether it was a local skirmish or a massive war involving tens of thousands. When Shinkai sent a worried message checking in, I just smiled, didn't explain, and directly closed the chat interface. The Friends page disappeared, replaced by the Shelter Upgrade interface. Looking at the only condition that used to be glaring red due to a lack of ruin entries, now glowing green, I didn't hesitate. I used my mind to press the upgrade button. Whoosh. The disaster points were instantly deducted, and the upgrade button turned its familiar pale gray. Unlike previous times that made the entire shelter shake, this process happened quietly since I wasn't inside. Only the progress bar at the bottom silently ticked up. 35%, 60%, 72%, 86%. This level 5 upgrade took significantly longer. If levels 1 through 4 were just the compliance phase, level 5 was the gateway to evolution. From this moment on, my shelter had officially surpassed the reach of ordinary people in the wasteland. Greetings, players Suemo. Your shelter has successfully upgraded to level 5. I didn't rush to check the level 6 requirements. A rare blueprint automatically appeared before me. Blueprint for small and medium laser weapon processing machine. It could only be used once the shelter reached level 5. It cost nearly 500 points to learn, but I was in no hurry. I returned to the captain's quarters, sat at the desk, and watched the rolling waves outside, occasionally punctuated by a violent tsunami pillar. With a shift in my thoughts, another notification chimed. Greetings, Sea God Commander Su Mo. Congratulations on passing the Sea God Commander promotion trial. Rank: First. Stages cleared: 9,999. Score: 9,999,999,990,000. Detected that you have requested to claim the promotion trial rewards. The game is verifying. Verification successful. Congratulations, player Sumo detected that the rewards contain multiple time-limited gifts. Please confirm if your current environment meets the conditions to receive the rewards. When I first set foot in this mysterious wasteland, I didn't know which way the wind blew. I had to be extremely cautious with everything I did, guarding against all sorts of variables. But now, as the veil of mystery was gradually lifted, my actions became increasingly bold. Even claiming this reward was a proactive attempt to test the limits within the game's rules. I chose to claim the rewards from this trial. Congratulations, player Sumo. You have confirmed the receipt of rewards. The rewards for this trial include 1. Title upgrade. Level 4 title Sea God Commander upgraded to level 5 title Ocean General. 2. Item rewards. 4-star resource card X1. Level 9 title experience card Sea God's Envoy. 48 hours. 3. Special blessing. Within 30 minutes, select a marine vessel, small or larger. That vessel will receive a random blessing from the Sea God and gain a special ability. 4. Blueprint upgrade. Within 5 minutes, select a blueprint no higher than rare grade. It will retain its usage conditions and be upgraded to a new tier. 5. Item upgrade. Select an owned item no higher than rare grade. It will be randomly upgraded. 6. Resource rewards. 500 units of iron, rare. 500 units of copper, rare. 500 units of aluminum, rare. 5 small missile engines, rare. 500 units of cobalt alloy, rare. 200 units of graphite insulation material, rare. From item 1 to 6, this reward package covered almost every necessary aspect. According to normal rules, even the top ranker in a level 8 to level 9 title promotion trial wouldn't receive such a terrifyingly comprehensive and precise reward package. Confirming that everything perfectly matched my calculations, the corners of my mouth curled into a satisfied smile. Rewind to an hour ago. When I revealed my true identity, the 2 blabbermouth gods who had been looking down from on high finally woke up. When they realized the person they thought they could toy with was actually a god too, and on the same side, no less, the mysterious figure from the heaven-stealing pavilion and the sea god of the prosperous era just whispered a few words. Then, out of sheer embarrassment, they quietly retreated. No matter how much I called out, they didn't answer, acting like they were dead. Only the sea god of the prosperous era was left floating in the void. The monk can run, but the temple can't. In the end, he had no choice but to respectfully fly down, bow his head, and shout, "Respected true god, welcome to the sea god's domain." In truth, the sea god of this land wasn't a true god. Despite the title, he was merely a subordinate left behind by the real sea god. Against ordinary people, he could exert absolute suppression through his rank. But against a god like me, he was bound by the rules and could only bow in submission. After dropping the pleasantries, both sides immediately had a frank exchange. The person from the heaven-stealing pavilion had already explained the situation outside the wasteland very clearly, so I only needed to reiterate it once. Combined with my divine authority, the sea god in charge of the trial instantly realized the gravity of the situation. The true sea god of this world had fallen into a deep slumber, hiding in an unknown location. As for him, a mere phantom in charge of the promotion trial, he had no grasp of the actual situation. In fact, after reviewing his memories, he discovered something extremely abnormal. He could neither intervene in nor observe the promotion trial set up by the sea god. All participants executed tasks according to the ultimate rules left behind. His only role was to check if their behavior was valid, and his maximum authority was to cut rewards by 60%. To understand the outside situation, he could only use the reward distribution phase to chat with the participants. But the terrifying part was that after every trial ended, his memories in this space were secretly wiped clean by someone. He couldn't remember a single thing. I frowned and asked, "So how often are your memories wiped?" Calculating based on outside time, he hesitated for a long time before answering. At the shortest, 20 days. At the longest, about a month. Every cycle, his memories were partially drained. If no one warned him, he would never realize it. It was thanks to the guidance from me and the person from the heaven-stealing pavilion that he soberly faced this horrifying truth. This was also the core reason for the system's warning. If the Wasteland's sea god wasn't found soon, the risk of exposure would grow exponentially. To resolve the current predicament, there was only one mission left: quickly find the Wasteland's sea god. Only the true sea god had the authority to stop the trial or completely erase these memories. I nodded. This directly concerns my life. I will definitely find the Wasteland's sea god and report your situation clearly. Saying this, I rubbed my hands together, looking at the steward of the prosperous era's sea god with a sheepish expression. Earlier, when discussing the impoverished state of the Wasteland's gods, I had dropped quite a few hints. Considering that even the sea god had to hide like a rat, it was perfectly understandable that a destitute true god like me lacked supplies. He understood perfectly. We were all family. This resupply drop had to be generous. It had to look like it came from family. With many special privileges, in the dark void, I saw a control panel that only he could open. It was like a hidden game console, recording the entire operational process of this ruined trial. According to the display, this promotion trial would end 24 days after I left, equivalent to 12 real-time hours in the Wasteland. After that, it would be temporarily archived and shut down. Any players still inside would be forcibly kicked out. Seeing him give a slight nod of permission, I didn't hold back and tried adjusting my own score. As soon as the score was modified, the number of rewards skyrocketed. But I didn't act recklessly. From an angle the sea god couldn't notice, I used the system to quickly scan the entire control panel. Immediately, the system returned the detection probability. If I only upgraded my title to level 9, Sea God's Envoy, the detection rate was 0%. But if I took even one extra item beyond the limit, the probability would instantly spike to 100%. Furthermore, if I only upgraded the title to level 5, it wouldn't take up any system quota at all. Thinking about how I still had 3 more level 6 to 8 title trials to milk later, I hardly hesitated. Title: keep the rules as they are. Then, through an extremely meticulous selection process, combining hundreds of different variations, my rewards this time were optimized to the absolute limit without triggering detection. I chose to claim all the rewards. Looking at the game panel prompting for confirmation, I reached out and tapped it lightly. Right after, starting with the first reward, the system distributed them one by one. Congratulations, Ocean Commander Su Mo. Your title has been upgraded to level 5, Ocean General. Would you like to view the attribute details? I confirmed immediately, my eyes full of curiosity as I looked at the title panel slowly materializing before me. Ocean General. Description: upgraded from Ocean Commander. In the ocean, the one who leads is called a general. From this moment on, your actions are no longer bound by any restrictions. To a certain extent, you represent the majesty of the sea god. Ordinary marine creatures must revere you, for you have the right to execute them without reason. Powerful marine creatures will worship you, for you are the symbol of military might in the ocean. Special authority can bestow or revoke titles of level 3 and below, requires 2,000 subordinates to activate. Lower-tier title holders cannot use title skills against you, plus 81 other privileges. Skill 1, representative of the sea god. While in the ocean, you cannot die from seawater. All physical attributes, plus 5. Swimming speed, plus 8. Stamina recovery at sea, plus 100%. Injury recovery at sea, plus 50%. Attribute resistances, stun resistance, plus 30. Hunger resistance, plus 10. Disease resistance, plus 20. Aging resistance, plus 5. Sun, corrosion, and cold resistance, plus 5 to plus 10 each. Skill 2. All marine creatures are defaulted to be unable to actively attack you. Skill 3. Any creature that kills you will be eternally cursed by the sea god. Skill 4. You are an esteemed existence in the heart of the sea. All your actions are under the sea god's gaze. Only level 5, and it already unlocked all those annoying restrictions? It even came with the authority to bestow and revoke level 3 titles? Isn't this way too overpowered? The first reward alone was enough to make me grin from ear to ear. Plus 5 to all attributes, increased swimming speed, double stamina recovery, and unlimited underwater breathing down to 400 meters. All of this was enough to make me an overlord of the ocean. More importantly, the removal of the penalty for not doing good deeds meant that from now on, If I wanted to blast or bomb marine creatures, I didn't have to hold back. The system would no longer revoke my title. Awesome. A level 5 title really is on another level. Suppressing the urge to jump straight into the sea and test my new power, I withdrew my focus. The game panel quickly shifted to the next reward. A blessing from the sea god. Out of all the rewards, if I had to pick the most decisive one, it would be this blessing. This was a reward personally left by the sea god when setting up the promotion trial, a limited item in the hands of the prosperous Iris sea god. According to the rules, this reward was only granted upon reaching level 9, Sea God's Envoy. Moreover, it required a sufficiently powerful vessel to fully unleash its latent potential. The probability of the system detecting the use of this item was extremely low, and when I thought of the hope, I didn't hesitate anymore. Please select the vessel to receive the blessing. Player Su Mo currently eligible vessel, the Hope. I selected the Hope. Looking at the panoramic interface of the ship, I took a deep breath, focused my mind, and slammed the confirm button. Whether in the wasteland or on Earth, in a market operating on zero-sum rules, where one person's gain is another's loss, the cowards always starve to death, while the bold eat until they burst. If it were me from my early days in the wasteland, even if I opened the hidden control panel, I wouldn't have dared to make such arbitrary choices, let alone directly accept a blessing from a true god. But for the survivors here, they had only existed for 63 days. As for me, I had been away from Earth for 153 days. In the team competition ruin, even though those mad scientists and I were so busy every day that we lost track of time, during the final battle, where millions of creatures were mobilized, I didn't just participate fully. I directly commanded it and reaped all the rewards. The promotion trial was set up by the sea god. Anyone who passed it would grow. And without a doubt, I had grown. My ambition was like a seed sown in winter, just waiting for spring to break through the soil and grow into a massive tree. Mr. Sea God, give me a hand. Give the Hope a mobility skill or a life-saving skill. Right now, the Hope's firepower is more than enough to overwhelm most marine creatures. Continuing to boost its attack power won't bring any significant changes. What this ship lacks most right now is an active skill, because from the very beginning, it only had that utterly useless charging skill. As the second reward began to distribute, I unconsciously clenched my fists, my eyes wide open as I looked through the ship's window toward the ocean outside. Due to the cycle between the tsunamis and the calm periods, the sky constantly changed colors. Right now, the tsunami hadn't ended. The sky was as heavy and gloomy as the apocalypse, covered in a sickly yellow hue that made one shudder. For a second, the sea outside was still churning violently, tossing the Hope up and down like a noodle. 5th second, I suddenly felt like the sea surface was closer. 10th second, the distance shrank by another 3 to 5 meters. At this point, I could confirm it wasn't an illusion. The ship was sinking. Holy shit, what the hell is this? Did the blessing turn the Hope into a submarine? Or did it increase its mass? In the bridge, Gong Gong's warning system immediately blared. Team 4, who was on duty, rushed out to the main deck, where they felt it more clearly than anyone. Previously, when the Hope sailed the sea, its buoyancy kept the hull steadily at 17 meters above water. Even when entering violent deep-sea zones, it remained stable above 15 meters. But now, according to the warning in my earpiece, that number was only 8 meters. I immediately jumped up, my finger pressing against my earpiece, my nerves taut as a bowstring, ready to respond to the emergency. 30th second, the bow was exactly 5 meters from the water's surface. 45th second, the distance dropped to just 2 meters. Even standing on the 3rd floor in the captain's quarters, I could clearly feel the violent shaking. The sky was heavy and gray, the churning sea right before my eyes. Waves that usually never reached the deck or the captain's quarters now only needed a slight swell to crash directly against the windows, pouring down like a waterfall. At this rate, in just 15 more seconds, the main deck would be completely submerged, leaving only the upper structure exposed. And in another half-minute, even the captain's quarters would be swallowed. The entire Hope would turn into a literal submarine. Calm down. The Hope is under my control. Don't panic. I reassured myself, then roared through the earpiece. Muer. Get Oreo. Big Huahua, and Little Huahua back to the bridge. Seal all watertight doors. The deck instantly descended into chaos. Mu'er ran back and forth. The two Huas flew around in a panic. Only Oreo remained calm, nodding and quickly following orders. I tried to suppress the unease churning in my chest, gripping my earpiece tightly. If this was a mandatory ritual to receive the blessing, then as long as it didn't last more than a minute, the hope could definitely withstand it. Thinking this, when I saw the water level rise another meter, I didn't hesitate anymore. I dashed out of the captain's quarters and vaulted down the stairs. With my level 5 title, Ocean General, even though the tsunami outside was howling ferociously, to me, it felt no different than coming home. The moment the hope was about to completely submerge, I made my decision. I would live or die with the hope. Screw it. If we're taking a bath, we're taking it together, I shouted, pulling out the battleship flag hidden under the deck. Watching the bow almost level with the water's surface, my eyes blazed like lightning. The flag, embroidered with the characters Sue on the front and Hope on the back, seemed to sense the will in my heart and flared with a brilliant golden light. Boom, boom. Every time the bow slammed into the water, waves splashed like rain. This time, as the bow continued to sink, I closed my eyes, waiting for the next wave to crash over me. However, 3 seconds, for seconds, then 5 seconds passed. Nothing happened. I snapped my eyes open. The main deck of the battleship Hope was completely submerged, but not a single drop of water had spilled inside. A faint golden shield radiated from the Hope flag, spreading out to cover the entire ship. The very next second, before I could even react, the entire battleship suddenly plunged heavily, diving straight into the heart of the ocean. Holy crap! Did the Hope really just dive underwater? On the surface, massive waves churned violently. But beneath the surface, despite the currents, it felt like stepping into a completely different world. Schools of treasure fish hurriedly dodged, then curiously swam around the newly submerged Hope, their inquisitive eyes staring at me standing dumbfounded at the bow. A group of bizarre, unnamed marine creatures mingled with the fish. Separated by a layer of light, they acted friendly, sending gentle gazes toward me, the Ocean General Suemo. A few strange jellyfish clung to the golden shield emitted by the flag, their bodies pulsing as they swam comfortably toward this giant monster that had just appeared on the ocean floor. The marine creatures weren't afraid at all. Instead, they flocked around it, moving alongside the battleship Hope as it slowly advanced. I stared blankly at the flag in my hand, then turned to the fish swimming alongside the hull. I looked up at the surface above, then down at the currents below. For a few seconds, I fell into a state of extreme contradiction. My eyes told me that the Hope had now turned into a convertible submarine, cruising stylishly along the ocean floor, making even the fish cheer. But my brain was screaming, "Run, bro. If a ship goes underwater, you're dead." And I was genuinely frozen in place. Right at that moment, the watertight door of the rear control cabin was excitedly pushed open by Mu'er. Bang! Crash! It roared in sheer excitement. "Ah, master. Turns out the Hope can swim too. Boo-hoo. You scared the baby bear to death. If I knew the ship was this awesome, I would have gone for a swim yesterday. Oh my gosh, these fish want to come inside and play. Come in, come in. Mu'er promises not to eat you guys." For someone who had gone through compulsory education and rigorous scientific training like me, this sight was truly soul-shaking. You could only imagine this in movies, games, or wild dreams. But for Mu'er, it was different. In its eyes, it seemed there was nothing the Hope couldn't do. Congratulations, player Suemo. Your vessel, the battleship Hope, has received the sea god's blessing and activated a new active skill. Would you like to view the Hope's current information? It was the system's notification that pulled me out of my daze. I forced my numb consciousness to move, raised my mind's hand, and forcefully pressed the view button. Immediately after, the familiar information panel of the battleship Hope fully materialized before my eyes. Attributes: Flying Hope. Grade: A. Legendary. Description: Legend has it that every battleship blessed by the gods possesses miraculous abilities. These abilities might not make it the ultimate killer of the seas, but they mark the beginning of a unique legend. This is a powerful battleship blessed by the sea god. It appears and disappears unpredictably, sometimes soaring along the ocean floor, playing with the fish and shrimp, sometimes breaching the surface, boiling the sea, and annihilating any foolish enemies. If you encounter it on the surface or in the deep sea, perhaps the captain is in a good mood, and you could try inviting them for a friendly lunch. But if you see it slowly rising from the depths of the ocean, run immediately, because you are about to face the full wrath of the battleship Hope, the one that flies. Technical specs: length 84.3 m, width 12.9 m, height 21 m, draft 4.8 m. Full load displacement 6,900 tons. Normal diving depth 45 m. Maximum 60 m. Durability 36,000/36,000. Cruising speed: surface 33 knots, underwater 40 knots. Maximum speed: surface 45 knots, underwater 55 knots. Special equipment: Level 2 Civilian Material Conversion Engine, D-33 Vertical Missile Launch Module, and the Flag of Hope. Ship damage: 9.68. Within a 40 kilometers radius, you are an inescapable nightmare. Operational range: infinite. Special skills: charge, epic. Sacrifices 1% of the ship's durability to dash in a designated direction at 100 knots/minute for 5 minutes. Upon hitting the first target, it releases accumulated energy in an explosion, then returns to normal speed. Usable once per day. Thorn Gaze: epic when attacked. The hull reflects random energy frequencies, granting immunity to physical attacks below level 50 and a chance to counterattack. Wave Terror: epic perfect aerodynamic shape, increases speed by 8% on calm waters. In rough seas, it can increase speed by up to 80%. Comfort: epic from the sea god's blessing. The ship has extremely high stability. Waves below level 6 cause no turbulence. Levels 6 to 12 reduce turbulence by 80%. Above level 12 reduces turbulence by 50%. Potential: A. Legendary. Upgrading the ship will grant additional attributes. Passive: cannot be upgraded. Regeneration: A. Legendary. While moving in the ocean, recovers 20% durability daily. Can accumulate up to 100%. Hope: legendary, the core of a fleet. When the formation is complete, all ships in the fleet receive 60% of the Hope's stats. Activation condition: unknown. Flight: legendary. Within the sea god's permitted range, the battleship can fly freely along the ocean floor. Daily time limit: 180 minutes. Remaining: 169 minutes. Legendary Awakening: legendary quests unlocked. So I actually own a ship that can fly underwater. In a way, the scene before me was truly the most mind-bending, surreal thing I had encountered since stepping into the wasteland. Even back when the sky was dominated by the false god, and just looking up meant seeing that horrifying giant dog face hanging there, it didn't give me goosebumps like this. The battleship Hope silently diving to the bottom of the sea. A ship traveling underwater isn't a new concept in theory. Shipbuilders had this idea since the 16th century, and by the American Civil War in the 17th century, submarines were even put into actual combat. Thanks to the sea god's blessing, all of the Hope's attributes had been elevated to a whole new level, and it even unlocked 2 legendary tier skills. Just its diving ability alone. If I wanted to hide in this wasteland, who could possibly catch me? I reached out and touched the golden shield covering the entire battleship Hope. The sensation was like placing my hand on a dense, bottomless void. I knew this shield might not compare to the absolute protection of the absolute space, but with it, I could confidently say that right now, in this wasteland, no one could break through the Hope's defenses. In terms of sheer power, this shield was the very definition of invincibility. And since it's invincible, in any dangerous situation, as long as we dive into the sea, the Hope will have 3 full hours of immortality every day. Truly worthy of being the most overpowered reward left by the sea god. This choice was an absolute steal. After enjoying the sensation of diving like a dragon on the ocean floor one more time, I waved my hand, ordering the Hope to slowly surface. Outside, it perfectly coincided with the calm phase that repeated every half hour, perfect for returning. I wasn't in a rush to claim the rest of the rewards. I put away the conspicuous hope flag at the bow, then gently tapped on the 8 legendary quests under the battleship's information tab. Previously, due to insufficient attributes, these quests hadn't been activated. But now, with 2 legendary skills unlocked, the Hope was finally qualified to take its first step on the path of ascension. Legendary promotion, quests unlocked. Would you like to view them? Yes. Currently, the legendary quests consist of 3 rounds. Drawing round 1 quest. Draw successful. Quest 1, gather awe. Description, make at least 3 billion creatures feel awe toward the battleship Hope. Progress, 2,366/3 billion. Oh, the very first quest requires 3 billion creatures to tremble in fear of my ship? Truly worthy of the legendary tier. It seems if I want to complete this quest, I need to quickly prepare for a live broadcast. I nodded, accepting it without hesitation. Without a live broadcast, this would be as hard as ascending to heaven. Just getting 3 billion people to know about the Hope is a massive project in itself. But with broadcasting capabilities, the right timing, and a viral enough effect, let alone 3 billion, I'm confident I could even hit 4 billion. As for the missing 12% progress needed to reach the 50% requirement for upgrading the Hope, looking at the remaining rewards, I wasn't worried at all. After coaxing the 4 little ones, I hurried down to the cargo hold. Aside from the 2 major rewards, the title and the Sea God's Blessing, the rest were carefully selected by me. For the blueprint upgrade reward in slot 3, I didn't hesitate and immediately chose the machine tool blueprint. Currently, the small and medium machine tool was enough to manufacture the D-1 vertical missile launch module, which, combined with the main cannon, temporarily met our combat needs. But if I could manufacture the D-3 short-range ballistic missile using a medium machine tool, who could resist? A blinding light flashed. The small and medium machine tool blueprint on the table was instantly baptized by the system. There were no major external changes, but the attribute description officially changed to medium machine tool. TSK. The material requirements are truly insane. Even though I prepared quite a bit before setting sail, I'm still short on a lot. It's a pity, sure, but who told me I have a cheat panel? Glancing at the list of materials, all rare ores, over a dozen basic materials. And they even required exquisite grade or higher. I didn't panic at all. In fact, I almost laughed. The very next second, from the empty disaster relief supply inventory, the reward that seemed the smallest but was actually the most practical, basic resources, began pouring out like a flood. When choosing the rewards, I was very clear-headed. I cut about 20% to get foundational materials, not just for building the medium machine tool, but also as key components for the yet-to-be-produced D-3 short-range ballistic missiles. From the warhead and missile body to the thrusters, if fully utilized, this amount was enough to build 5 guided missiles. Although their destructive power couldn't compare to the Dongfeng missiles on Earth, in this wasteland. Long-range guided missiles with a range of thousands of kilometers were strategic weapons, enough to turn the tide of battle in an instant. With such a guaranteed win, zero-loss deal that could even provide an insane leverage effect, my calculations were crystal clear. Once all the resources were distributed, I rubbed the medium machine tool blueprint, spent 500 disaster points to officially display it in the crafting interface, fed the materials in 1 by 1, and spent another 2,000 crafting points. Seeing the completion time was 6 hours, I nodded in satisfaction. At this point, almost all the major rewards had been claimed. The rest included a random 4-star resource card. Once used, it would generate a brand new 4-star resource in the territory, a true powerhouse tool for development. A 2-day Sea God's Envoy experience card, which could be used as a trump card or to squeeze some information out of the Sea God when needed. And the final attached reward was 1 random item evolution. Specifically, maybe my luck had run out earlier, so I couldn't upgrade my favorite 3-pronged spear. Instead, the system chose to upgrade the ever-burning lamp gathering dust in the storage. This lamp was originally a gift from the Rust Shelter. Initially, I planned to install it on the Hope for night combat. But later, during the battle with the 20,000 mutants, with the battleship's cannons providing cover, we didn't need illumination at all. Furthermore, when sailing the sea, the most important thing is maintaining stealth. Because of that, This lamp had been shelved for a long time. If it hadn't been upgraded this time, I might have forgotten I even owned it. Following my memory, I went to the miscellaneous storage room, rummaged through a dark corner, and finally pulled out the evolved, ever-burning lamp. I silently chanted, consuming 1 disaster point. The system immediately scanned it and displayed its information. Ever-burning lamp. Grade, Epic. Description: this is a special tool crafted by dwarven blacksmiths, originally used to provide long-term illumination in pitch-black caves. For some reason, it drifted to the wasteland and was infused with epic power. However, because it has not yet been inscribed with an epic tale, its abilities have not been fully unleashed. Only when the user binds it and inscribes their own legendary tale will it become a true epic item. Special skills. Function: when turned off, the lamp automatically absorbs ambient light to store energy. Efficiency depends on light intensity. Illumination: when fully charged to 100%, the lamp can shine continuously for 3 hours, with a brightness of up to 1 million lumens. Adjustment: automatically adjusts intensity and angle based on the situation and the user's will. Encourage: allied creatures within the light's range gain boosted combat morale and receive temporary positive buffs. Terrify: enemies illuminated by the light will experience instinctual fear, prone to flinching or fleeing. Retreat: note, shining for more than 5 minutes may backfire, causing enemies to fight to the death instead of retreating. Lock. Restriction 1. Must be bound to be used. Restriction 2. Relocating after binding costs nearly 3,000 disaster points. Recycle value: 1,500 disaster points. Oh ho! The effects are truly beyond expectations. I couldn't help but laugh. Previously, 300,000 lumens was a bit trashy, but jumping straight to 1 million lumens? I could use this as a weapon. Not to mention it directly affects the psychology of creatures. Since it had to be bound to be used, I didn't overthink it. I grabbed the lamp, tools, and materials, and headed back to the main deck. After checking the positions, I chose to install it right on top of the main gun turret, dead center of the battleship Hope. Placing it here would illuminate the entire deck, while spreading light to the area surrounding the ship. After some hammering and securing the iron frame, I placed the lamp on top and proceeded to bind it. As if something invisible appeared, the ever-burning lamp gradually merged with the ship's deck. Right then, I curiously opened the Hope's information panel. Just one glance made me exclaim in excitement, "Holy shit! The ever-burning lamp is seriously overpowered." Just attaching it boosted the progress by a straight 8%. Just 4% more, and the Hope will hit the 50% completion milestone. March 5th, Wasteland Calendar. At 3:02 a.m., the 3rd day since the tsunami hit. The first night back on the battleship Hope after the naval title promotion trial, I suffered from insomnia again. Even though the upgraded comfort stat could absorb up to 95% of the turbulence caused by the tsunami, making it feel like lying in a normal bed. Just thinking about the impending full-scale disaster filled my head with all sorts of thoughts, making it impossible to sleep. The title promotion ruin had closed 4 hours ago, and my sister had been safely returned to the Tundra ship. Fortunately, at this moment, the Tundra ship had linked up with 20 large battleships and nearly 150 small sand-class boats. Even without the firepower I provided, based on their current strength, this fleet was enough to rank in the top 50 of the wasteland. With such a scale, small mutant groups didn't have the capability to attack, nor the guts to provoke them. As for large mutant groups, if they wanted to strike, they would have to weigh the costs. Was the post-battle loss worth it? Would the benefits make up for it? And what would the long-term consequences be? Liu Yongyi was an extremely shrewd man. He deliberately slapped the chicken label on the Tundra fleet, a word usually meant as an insult, but now it served as an effective shield. Thanks to his clear-headed command, despite a few clashes during their journey, every crisis was resolved smoothly. But I wasn't the only one who understood this. Liu Yongyi understood it too. In fact, almost everyone in the fleet could feel it. The current peace wasn't a lasting one, but merely the calm before a massive storm. Based on the ferocity of the final tsunami day, and considering the current reality, aside from those living on wooden rafts, most ships had a high chance of survival. But the price to pay was ship damage. And once a ship was damaged in this endless ocean, it practically meant death. Because there was no chance for repairs. The deep-sea mutants, like sharks smelling blood, would swarm madly the moment they detected any signs of damage. By then, no matter how strong human willpower was, they wouldn't be able to fend them off while crossing the ocean to reach the new continent. Based on the Hope's newly upgraded cruising speed, the time I rendezvous with the Tundra fleet would fall on the early morning of the 9th, perfectly coinciding with the start of the 7th day of the disaster. As long as there were no mishaps along the way, the Hope was fully capable of rescuing this fleet and protecting tens of thousands of people at sea. But compared to the vast ocean of the wasteland, the Hope alone was still too small. It's no exaggeration to say that if I wanted the Hope to patrol this entire sea, the time required would be measured in years. And those deep-sea mutants wouldn't feel awe just because of Sioux God or the battleship Hope. Even with the most optimistic calculations, the number of people who could survive and reach the new continent absolutely wouldn't exceed 1 billion people. My thoughts started to tangle. The sound of the tsunami outside the window grew more violent by the minute. I rolled over, lying on my side, and opened the game control panel. Note: congratulations, player Sumo. Your ship's completion rate has surpassed 50%. The system has automatically activated the leaderboard scoring feature. Note: detected that your ship's disaster resistance index currently ranks first globally. Would you like to make your leaderboard data public and start a disaster resistance livestream in the shelter area? Note: the livestream will not reveal the interior of the ship. It will only use a hovering camera to broadcast the external situation to viewers. Note: if the livestream duration exceeds 24 hours or viewership reaches 1 billion, and you survive the disaster, you will receive a random survival relief package. Note: if the livestream duration exceeds 48 hours or viewership reaches 5 billion, and you survive, you will receive a wood tier survival relief package. Note, etc. Note: would you like to activate the livestream? This was already the second time the leaderboard warning had popped up. Reaching the 50% progress mark for the Hope had indeed been an arduous journey. But ultimately, it was the inevitable result of a long series of efforts. Once the ever-burning lamp was installed, the entire battleship's completion rate was only one step away from hitting the 50% mark. 8 hours prior, the medium machine tool had been successfully crafted and installed on the second deck. The progress index instantly jumped by 6%, hitting exactly 52%, officially qualifying to start a live stream. But back then, I chose no. And now, I still chose no. After turning off all system notifications, I switched to the chat tab, carefully monitoring the situation in other regions of the Wasteland Sea. Ever since the tsunami hit, humanity's rhythm of life had been completely upended. There was no more early to bed, early to rise. It was all about surviving on the rare breaks between disaster waves that struck exactly half an hour apart. People would barely finish bracing against one tsunami wave before collapsing onto their wooden decks in a dead sleep, only to be violently awakened 30 minutes later, continuing the nightmare loop of disaster resistance. Under such terrifying pressure, tens of thousands of people chose to commit suicide on the very first day, no longer having the strength to bear the burden of so-called survival in this wasteland. By the second day, thanks to the perks from the naval titles, people gradually adapted a bit more and could barely scrape by. And by the beginning of the third day, at least in the global chat channel, as I scrolled through, the complaints had noticeably decreased. Instead, there were lively discussions on how to survive the disaster. Brothers, I just fished up a top-tier fish from the sea. It's amazing. I can't send pictures, so I'll describe it. Take advantage of the break to search around your area and see if you can find one. Its head looks like a catfish, flat and long, and its tail is a round chunk of meat with triangular fins. It doesn't bite, it's actually very friendly. When it sees people, it swims over asking for hugs. Just catch it and put it in a bucket of fresh water. Remember, fresh water, and it'll stay alive. The water it soaks in has extreme healing properties. Drinking it restores health and stamina. The longer it soaks, the more overpowered it gets. Holy crap, bro. As soon as the tsunami stops, I'm diving in to look for one. Anyone in Region 20 want to form a group? I've got 5 large ships, 18 small boats, and over 100 wooden rafts. DM me if you need in. We're the City Defender group, Coordinates 30. This area has enough shelter for everyone. Come take refuge first. We'll figure things out after the tsunami passes. Brothers, watch out for the Four Seas fleet. In times like this, they're still out here murdering and stealing ships. My friend just got victimized. He's dead and his ship is gone. The Four Seas fleet just sent me an invite. I was actually considering it. Damn, that's scary. I advise everyone to join the official fleets set up by the system. They might not be as personalized, but they're way safer than the self-organized ones. Sigh, I wonder where Sugod went. I hope Sugod steps in and stops this tsunami. Speaking of the tsunami, I have no fucking clue who triggered this event. If I catch him, I'm hanging him upside down and beating him bloody. During the tsunami's rampage, the messaging speed wasn't fast. Who had the mind to type? Most of the people chatting were either in large fleets or in shallow waters where the waves weren't apocalyptic. From those conversations, I also realized that quite a few people were calling out Sugod's name. Looking back at the history of religious development on Earth, the periods of most explosive growth were always during times of chaos or war. The reason is simple. Humans need faith. They need a belief system, someone to look up to. They needed Sugod. They needed someone who could step up, lead the way, and bring them what they called the hope of survival. This tsunami, for humanity, had truly become a death trap. There was no time left to find a way to counterattack or turn the tide. To break this deadly deadlock, the only remaining method was the Great War of the Three Races. I tapped my fingers rhythmically against the bed rail. Tap, tap. The steady sound echoed as my thoughts were pushed to a higher level. Just like the authorities were considering, after some analysis, I also realized that the only way to survive was to dive headfirst into the center of this storm. Based on the current disaster level, it could be determined that it was at the wood tier. It wasn't an absolute apocalypse, but it was by no means light. And if we truly wanted to trigger the Great War of the Three Races, the disaster level would definitely surpass the wood tier. It might even touch the iron tier, becoming a chaotic brawl involving all creatures. But recalling the end of the previous blizzard disaster, I knew very well. Meeting the conditions to start the Great War of the Three Races was as hard as ascending to heaven. The essence of the Great War of the Three Races is combat. It requires at least 80% of humanity to ignite their will to fight, carrying a do-or-die spirit, actively charging into battle against the mutants. At the same time, the mutants must also have a strong enough reason or suffer a massive enough coercion to force them into the war. It sounds feasible on paper, but upon deeper analysis, I immediately realized this was nothing short of a god-tier mission. There are countless examples on Earth showing that when humans face a choice, unless there is an absurdly massive external force, their choice will undoubtedly be prioritize themselves first. Deducing from that, even though many people in the World Channel are currently clamoring for an all-out war against the mutants, wanting to win a massive battle to prove humanity's strength in this new world, I have every reason to believe that when the war actually breaks out, at least 80% will run faster than rabbits. It's not that I don't believe in the wasteland survivors, but that's just the reality of human nature. Before crossing over, they might have been office workers, students, mechanics on the highway, or just owners of a small corner diner. 2 months of survival in the wasteland taught them how to stay alive, how to build boats, how to read people's faces to survive, and how to be resilient. But if you force them now to risk their lives against fearless mutants, it's no different than pushing them straight to their deaths. The sea has never been humanity's home turf, and war will undoubtedly be incredibly brutal. Human lives, so precious in times of peace, are now worth no more than weeds. If that great war stubbornly proceeds according to the higher-ups' plan, using war to replace the tsunami disaster would only result in slightly reducing the casualty rate. In the end, countless people would still be buried at the bottom of the sea. Want to break the deadlock? Want to turn the tide perfectly? It's as hard as ascending to heaven. Unless this tsunami disaster is absolutely not a coincidence. Someone is definitely pulling the strings behind the scenes. And looking at the current situation, there's a 90% chance it wasn't caused by humans. Then there are only two possibilities left, the marine mutants and the land mutants. For the land mutants, an early tsunami brings no benefits. Their ships are also affected, and their combat power drops sharply. It's completely detrimental to them. But the marine mutants are different. An early tsunami means the ocean becomes their home turf. They can also descend quickly and seize the early advantage. I had lain down in bed to rest, but my mind didn't stop at all. In fact, it was running even faster. Invisible streams of information seemed to materialize, flashing before my eyes, automatically connecting and analyzing. If my brain's quantum cloud was previously like a single-core CPU, struggling to run fast even with added algorithms, now, with my comprehensively upgraded physique and the buff from the Ocean General title, my brain structure seemed to have undergone a subtle transformation. It was very minor, but it was like upgrading from a single core to a dual-core CPU. And when it started running, when the lock on my thinking was opened, I clearly felt that I could see much more than before. The true scheme of the land mutants is absolutely not the sea god. Their goal isn't that grand, nor do they have the audacity or influence to pull that off. Furthermore, the ocean attack plan they prepared in advance has definitely fallen into the hands of the marine mutants. Putting myself in their shoes, if I were a marine mutant or a land mutant right now, what would I do next? After questioning myself, the entire chain of events gradually became clear. A faint thread of cause and effect emerged from the mountain of information I had been constantly digging through. As long as I grasped that thread, the entire situation of the wasteland sea would be laid bare like a map for me to observe. And the ultimate goal that both mutant factions were plotting would also be revealed. That was the one ray of hope for survival in my eyes. At 5 a.m., I had unraveled about 10% of the crucial thread of the entire event. At 5:48 a.m., as the horizon began to turn pale white, the analysis progress had reached nearly 20%. Almost every passing second, countless pieces of information gathered over the past few days constantly flashed through my mind. Useless things were discarded, valuable things were kept, then synthesized into new clues. Even in a single sentence that had the potential to hold information, I would extract a few words, connect them with data from another sentence, and piece together a new sign. The world channel was keyword filtered by the system, but thousands, tens of thousands of messages still scrolled by every minute. And within them, not a single minor hint could escape my eyes during this rare sleepless night. Untangling the knot is always the hardest part at the beginning, but once there's enough information, the difficulty drops drastically. By the time the alarm clock rang at 7 a.m. in the captain's quarters, I had deciphered about 70% of the crucial links. I didn't pause because the alarm interrupted me, but because at this stage, completing the picture required one final verification step. And that source of verification was the very enemy I had yet to face directly, the marine mutants. Now I just need one final, crucial piece of information. I just need to catch a marine mutant commander, the kind linked to a base core, and I can extract everything I need. In fact, if I want to ignite this great war of the three races, I might not even need to sacrifice a single human life. I clenched my fists, feeling the bold thoughts surging within me. I took a deep breath to calm my racing heart. Finally, when the irresistible wave of exhaustion washed over me, I stopped fighting it, laid down on the small bed, and fell asleep. Across the ocean, the majority of survivors drifting across the sea were also welcoming a rare morning of rest. By the third day of the tsunami disaster, even though the wave height and sea turbulence had escalated to a new level, there was a system message that should have been bad news, but now turned out to be good news, lifting everyone's spirits. Starting at 8 a.m., each tsunami cycle extended from half an hour to a full hour. In other words, instead of 30 minutes of tsunami and 30 minutes of rest, it was now 1 hour of tsunami and 1 hour of rest. The total rest time per day was still 12 hours, but for those who had been bracing themselves for 2 straight days, this change was enough to rekindle their hope of survival. Not to mention, after 2 days of gathering, the lone wolves on the sea had visibly decreased. Instead, numerous large and small fleets had gradually formed. Under the system's call, using the large ships of the shelters as the core, a massive net was quickly cast across all regions, bringing countless people together. Smaller groups had a dozen or 20 ships tied together with ropes to brave the waves. Larger groups, like the Tundra Fleet, even bought special iron chains from the defensive faction, binding all large and small ships into one solid block. For most survivors, the situation seemed to be gradually improving. But for the middle and upper tiers who had access to intel, these changes only made the sense of crisis in their hearts clearer than ever. The Tundra Fleet. Aboard a 50-meter-long sailing battleship, just past 8 a.m., an emergency meeting broke out in an atmosphere as taut as a bowstring. Unlike the spacious meeting room on the Hope, the Tundra's meeting room was only about 10 square meters, made of wood, with only one small window letting in dim, gloomy light. Outside the meeting room, over 30 people were waiting. Some were smoking pipes, some were scratching their arms and legs, some were silently flipping through books, and others stood looking out at the sea with anxious faces. They were all captains of the small boats in the fleet, temporarily unqualified to enter the meeting room, left to wait outside for the results from the big shots inside. Inside the meeting room, amidst that gloomy space, over a dozen people were currently arguing fiercely. There was none of the quiet waiting scene outside. The moment they walked in, the shouting match erupted immediately. "Director Liu, I told you last night, we can't keep going like this. Now do you see? Linking the large ships with the small boats is barely manageable. It still maintains the defensive line's flexibility. But forcing us to drag those wooden rafts along is completely unworkable. They've stretched our defensive line tenfold and created a terrifying logistical nightmare. We can't hold out for even another half day. Dragging those wooden rafts along only makes it easier for the marine mutants behind us to latch on. If they find even one opening, those wooden rafts will become the fatal breach for the entire fleet." A bald guy, Ming Chun, shouted while slamming his hand on yesterday's battle report placed in the middle of the table. Without waiting for Liu to speak, a tall, lean, but visibly muscular man next to the bald guy stood up to chime in. "That's right, Director. Brother Chun is absolutely right. Being kind right now is being irresponsible to the people on our ships. As long as we haven't shaken off those mutants, everyone is living in danger every single minute. Yesterday, there were only 2 groups of marine mutants tailing us, but overnight it's increased to 6 groups. That's 3 times as many. I bet they haven't attacked yet, not because they're scared, but because their reinforcements haven't fully arrived. Once they gather enough numbers and close in, it'll be too late to run even if we want to." These words seemed to hit the nail on the head. Immediately, other people stood up one after another, offering all sorts of different reasons. From hesitation breeds chaos, to a wise man doesn't stand under a collapsing wall, to those who achieve great things don't sweat the small stuff, and the path to success requires sacrifice. Everyone's reasoning was different, but their goal was exactly the same: abandon the wooden rafts. Abandon the fleet of nearly 5,000 people on wooden rafts trailing closely behind the Tundra Fleet. The atmosphere in the meeting room was as taut as a bowstring. After the 6 leaders, including Zhang Long, finished presenting their views, Liu Yongyi, who sat in the center, remained silent, not saying a word. The faction advocating to abandon the rafts temporarily gained the upper hand. And this was something that hadn't happened in the past 2 days. It was precisely this rare hesitation from Liu Yongyi that caused the remaining people to start wavering. Looking at the statements in the Disaster Resistance Channel or the World Channel, anyone would think that all survivors had large ships to sail on, or at worst, small boats. But the reality was a fake poverty trap concealed by the system's content filtering mechanism. It was no different from Versailles-style humble bragging in the real world. Just like in civilized times, if you browsed the internet for a bit, it was easy to fall into the illusion that making 300,000 a year was poor, 500,000 was barely surviving, and 1 million was just average, leading you to think the whole world was rich and you were the only destitute one. The wasteland was the same right now. Under the system's filtering, if anyone wanted to see the cruel truth, reach the bottom rung of society, or witness truly tragic scenes, the system would automatically block it all. After just a day or two, those pieces of information completely vanished from the World Channel, replaced by the roundabout bragging of the lucky or the truly strong. But if someone could look all the way to the bottom, they would see a clear truth. Wooden rafts were still the mainstream. The people surviving on wooden rafts currently made up 40% of the total human survivors. 40% might not sound like much, but if you take a baseline of 4 billion people, that's 1.6 billion lives. The Tundra fleet currently had 12 large ships, each carrying about 600 people, totaling 7,200 people. There were 37 small boats, each holding about 180 people, adding up to 6,660 people. Combined, the two types held about 14,000 people. Meanwhile, the number of people on the wooden rafts trailing behind them, according to preliminary statistics, had reached 26,000, far exceeding the main fleet. Due to the system's family box mechanic, each wooden raft usually didn't just have one person. It ranged from 2 or 3 to as many as 7 or 8. If the tsunami hadn't arrived early, they might have still had a chance to rely on a bit of luck and their small rafts to grope their way to the new continent and beg to join the large shelters. But now, they were forced to latch onto large fleets like the Tundra to survive. And the further they went, the more regional channels the Tundra fleet entered, leading to more and more people gathering behind them. And what came with them were the marine mutants from each region. Director Liu, if you hesitate any longer, it'll be too late. Now the time between each tsunami wave has extended to an hour. We just need to wait for the next wave to pass, then raise the sails and leave them behind. We can even spare them some food, consider it relief, and let them fend for themselves. If we let them keep following us, when the battle breaks out, we'll have to fight the enemy while protecting them. The outcome will definitely be all of us dying together. What are you still waiting for? Faced with Zhang Long's harsh questioning, the entire meeting room fell silent for a moment. Frankly speaking, everyone chose Lu Yongyi as their leader not because the Tundra ship was grand, nor because he was backed by the system, but for two very practical reasons. First, the Tundra ship possessed modern firearms. No one knew how much ammo was left, but it was clearly a trump card that could flip the table at a crucial moment. Whoever holds the firepower has the right to speak. Even if Lu Yongyi wasn't the leader, whoever replaced him would still have to treat him like an emperor emeritus. Being a puppet would be useless. Second, Lu Yongyi was famous for being decisive. He acted swiftly, did what he said, and didn't beat around the bush. Logic was logic, rules were rules. From the very first day the fleet assembled, a foreign large ship tried to squeeze into the center, thinking they deserved it because their ship was bigger. The result? Lu Yongyi directly stepped up, blocked them, and declared, "Those who follow orders, stay. Those who don't, get the hell out." It sounded dictatorial and overbearing, but in reality, it was the only way to protect the collective's interests in this situation. Even though they had to drive a large ship away, that action left an incredibly deep impression on everyone. Having a man like him step up as a leader put everyone at ease. In the past, whenever the topic of keeping or abandoning the wooden raft fleet came up, Lu Yongyi was always the one to block all opposition, fiercely protecting them. Back then, even if many captains were secretly dissatisfied, since everyone shared the same bitter struggles. And the situation wasn't too critical yet, no one dared to openly object. But now, things were different. Rumors from the wooden rafts had spread across all regions, and more people were flocking over. In just one day, the number of wooden rafts had surged by 4,000, forcing many to speak up for the sake of their own survival. And naturally, there was no right or wrong choice here. Keeping them or abandoning them. In the current state of the wasteland, neither could be called a sin. In fact, if they truly decided to abandon the raft fleet, as long as a few people like Zhang Long pushed the issue, Lu Yongyi could easily ride the wave and shift the blame. No one would be able to say a word. Yet, sitting in the middle of the conference room, the center of everyone's attention, Lu Yongyi remained silent, his lips pressed tightly together, his eyes glued to the data screen in front of him. There was no panic on his square face, nor any awkwardness, as if the arguments around him hadn't even reached his ears. However, under the table, where everyone could see, his fists were clenched tight, his knuckles white and taut, carving out the intense struggle in his heart. Unless they were truly pushed to the absolute limit, to the point where keeping people meant a slow death, no one had the heart to abandon their own compatriots. No one wanted to hear their conscience knocking at their door every night. Those capable enough to become captains of large ships were no ordinary men. They had the skills and the charisma to make others submit. It was just a pity that the sea aliens were a bunch of unreasonable beasts. They wouldn't show mercy just because humans maintained order. Even if they kept the raft fleet, the outcome might not change at all. In the end, the alien races would still win. Even so, seeing Liu Yongyi's demeanor, not a single person in the conference room opened their mouth to pressure him further. Everyone's mind was a tangled mess right now. Even Zhang Long, who had just harshly proposed abandoning them, could only sigh in secret. If today were the final day of the tsunami disaster, then even if it meant death, no one would have the heart to leave those wretched people behind. But it was only the third day. After today, there were still 3 more days waiting ahead. At the current rate of increase, 3 days from now, the number of wooden rafts could easily surpass 10,000, maybe even 15,000. By then, the entire fleet scale would hit the 100,000 person mark. With a situation like that, unless all the large and small ships were equipped with modern firepower and ample ammunition, there would be no plan B against the alien race's relentless attacks. Unless a miracle happened. Director Liu, we understand. We truly understand your dilemma. We're human too, flesh and blood, not animals. You're the boss, and we respect you from the bottom of our hearts. Whatever you decide, we'll follow. If you want to wait, we wait. If you want to leave them, I'll step up and play the villain. Even if we have to fight, we won't back down. Just make the call. We absolutely won't make this hard for you. The suffocating silence in the conference room dragged on for over 10 minutes. Seeing Liu Yongyi's fists begin to tremble slightly, the captains who had been quiet all this time finally stood up. Even Zhang Long's group, who had been so aggressive earlier, now only nodded in solemn silence, stepping up to stand in a row. Yet, the man sitting in the center, despite being pressured by over a dozen people at once, remained as immovable as a mountain. Only his lips moved slightly, uttering 3 words that left everyone stunned. Wait a little longer. Meanwhile, across the ocean, where the Dayuan fleet was still torn between staying and leaving. On the Hope, I woke up from a sleep that lasted from 7 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., feeling so refreshed I could practically spit blood. The moment I opened my eyes, the first thing I did wasn't eat or check reports, but immediately order Gong to maintain patrol speed. Activate the Firepower King's high-power scanning mode, and turn on the sonar system's full-frequency sweep. Target, biological and energy signatures. Then, I sprang out of bed, grabbed the notebook on the desk, and started writing furiously. Before sleeping, I had analyzed about 70% of the alien race's plan and the overall situation in the wasteland. But after just over 20 minutes of light sleep, a sudden flash of inspiration hit me, and my progress instantly jumped to about 75%. Based on that number, even though I still couldn't deduce the entire conspiracy of both the sea aliens and the land aliens, I suddenly realized a crucial, pivotal point, the starting line. So what was the starting line? For me, from the very beginning of this sea voyage, there were 3 core objectives: pick up my sister, gather a group of scientists or people with special abilities to bring to the new continent to build a technological foundation, and find the sea god to defuse the wasteland's ticking time bomb. Aside from these 3 goals, whether it was wiping out 20,000 aliens or entering a tidal ruin to research the tech tree, those were all just side quests. Following that logic, even if I couldn't uncover the aliens' entire plan, I could deduce their true objective. For the common alien races, the goal was simple: follow the clan's orders, enter the wasteland to expand the search, and hope to bring back a divine artifact. As for those sent here, according to Connie, they were the weakest, lowest potential members of their race. Bluntly put, they were just cannon fodder. The hope was that they would survive the harsh wasteland and stumble upon a precious divine artifact. It was no different from a guy with hundreds of millions in his bank account casually buying a lottery ticket. If they hit the jackpot, great. If not, whatever. But what about the 5 great royal races? What was their true objective? As I wrote this, my mind suddenly cleared. All my previously vague thoughts sharpened at once, and any misguided deductions were ruthlessly discarded. Instead, a picture of the truth slowly emerged before my eyes. Looking at it from the royal race's perspective, every time they participated, they had to send out a large number of high-potential elites. If their true goal was just to fight for authority like the common aliens. I wrote slowly, my pen pausing for a beat. Then, with their strength, the outcome would be no different from throwing money out the window, relying entirely on luck. If the common aliens lost, so be it, the loss wouldn't affect anything. But if the royal races lost their core forces, the overall strength of their race would drop significantly. In the long run, the strong would get weaker, the weak would get stronger, and the tide would inevitably turn. Thinking of this, I could almost confirm it. The true objective of the royal races was never about authority. The scratch of my fountain pen on the paper blended with the sound of crashing waves outside, so faint it was almost inaudible. But in my heart, it was like a clap of thunder. If the factions behind the alien races were the investors, and the human race, large in number but weak in strategy, was the market, then the creatures sent to the wasteland were the betting chips. The common aliens invested very little. If they lost, no big deal. But the royal races were different. They poured in massive investments. If they didn't reap enough profits, it would be a disaster. And what about this time? After only 3 disaster waves, humanity hadn't just survived. They had surplus resources. There was even a Su Chun, a guy who could slaughter gods and demons. From an investor's point of view, that meant a chilling conclusion. The market was crashing, profits were shrinking, and risks were skyrocketing. Just like the stock market. When small investors see things going south, they panic sell and pull out. But the big players, before their accounts get wiped out, have to find a way to pass the bag and cut their losses. So when did the market start crashing? I wrote down a timeline. After the welfare disaster. That very disaster allowed almost all of humanity to clear the stage. Everyone got stronger. No one was starving or thirsty anymore. They had more time to adapt and explore the wasteland. That also meant the major shelters would only get stronger. Humanity now had the power to face the alien races head-on. Ordinary people hadn't noticed this trend yet, but the 5 great royal races had already smelled the danger and started looking for an exit. Before the big bosses bailed, they obviously had to find a scapegoat to hold the bag. And so, when the ocean disaster struck, the 5 great royal races' massive exit strategy was officially born. What was that plan? The Great Ocean Manhunt. At this point, every question in my mind had an answer. Why weren't the royal races afraid of their plan leaking? Why didn't they care if the sea aliens knew? Hell, why didn't they even care if the human race knew? Because from the very beginning, the 5 great royal races' target was the human race. And the sea aliens' current target was also the human race. Whether it's a big investor or a small one, whoever says no to money. I looked at the page, now packed with words. Every line of reasoning was as tight as a blade. The points that hadn't made sense, the illogical gaps, they were all connected now into one massive, logical chain. Compared to those old theories about them teaming up to hunt me, this Great Ocean Manhunt was a truly perfect closed loop. So perfect that even if you saw through it, you'd still have to strip down and jump right in. At first, because the aliens couldn't directly gather humans or continuously track survivors, I misunderstood, thinking they weren't targeting humanity. Then came Connie's confirmation, followed by Cluck's overly realistic act, which only cemented my wrong assumption. But thinking back, it all made sense. In the early stages, the royal races forced the common aliens to escort the humans safely out of port, keeping the market from collapsing. If humanity won, it meant they'd take a massive loss. Next came the early tsunami, using the information gap and exploration data to force humans to group up, expose their locations, and patch the can't-gather humans bug themselves. Moving to Phase 2, just as humanity survived the tsunami with damaged ships, and the sea aliens were getting ready to carve them up, the royal races dragged the land aliens out to fight, inflicting heavy losses on the sea aliens while tossing the human race to the common aliens to divide among themselves. Phase 1 emphasized protecting the human race. Phase 2 was still about protecting the human race. And I had completely missed this point. By Phase 3, when Cluck hid the information, I still thought the target was the sea god. Looking back now, it was just sickeningly greedy. When the final links clicked into place, only 2 words remained in my mind. Brilliant. Barring any variables, this plan was a clean sweep, with profits rolling in like a tsunami. Wipe out the sea aliens, and they could leisurely stay in the wasteland to hunt for authority, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. As for the sea aliens, just as I guessed from the start, they were nothing but dupes. Forcibly summoned, given less than 7 days to prepare, with all communication cut off on both sides, relying only on outdated experience. It was like being sold out, and still helping count the money. So, my job now was to force the common aliens to make a move before 8 a.m. on the 7th day, making them actively attack the human race, triggering the three-race war, and ending the final day of the tsunami. By then, even if the 5 great royal races wanted to wait for the tsunami to pass before stepping in, it would be too late. Because hesitating for even a second meant someone else would snatch up all the profits. But how to force the aliens to fight? Easy. If you have hands, you can do it. Just imagining the chaotic battlefield, where the golden-haired Lion King, revered by the land aliens, suddenly turns around, sides with the human race, and transforms into old Demon Sue, while the masterminds behind the scenes twist their faces in fury. I couldn't help but burst into loud laughter right there in the captain's cabin. The laughter rang out, arrogant, unbridled, and wild, carrying the aura of someone who held the entire board in the palm of his hand. Even the violent waves crashing against the hull outside couldn't drown out that heroic laughter. But before I could even finish laughing, Gong immediately popped up a notification based on the preset scanning order. Large-scale biological reaction detected at north 67 degrees, 197 kilometers away. Cross-referencing results show a 17% probability of land alien races engaging humans and a 64% probability of engaging sea alien races. The probability of a three-way chaotic battle is 19%. It also asked if I wanted to avoid this area. I raised an eyebrow, my heart growing even more thrilled. No avoiding. I directly ordered the Hope to advance at full speed and stop at a distance of 30 kilometers from the battlefield. Then, I called Muir up to the artillery room, preparing to let all the alien races taste the true bitterness that the Hope could bring. I abandoned my usual caution and no longer kept my habit of hiding. At this moment, I had completely returned to my state from back in the Team Ruins, when I single-handedly led 1,000,000 creatures and kick-started the entire Wastelands industry. My gaze pierced through the sea surface, through the spatial fog of the wasteland, staring straight at those old foxes sitting behind the 5 great royal clans. Those who were smirking, thinking they already held the entire world in the palm of their hands. Keep laughing. Laugh at your perfect plans. Laugh at your brilliant minds. Laugh at your easy victories. But little do you know, right here on this sea, someone is already staring dead at your throats. A closed loop? Sorry, but breaking loops is my favorite thing to do. Gods can screw off. I specialize in slaughtering gods and slaying demons. Over on the Alien Races World channel, the atmosphere was completely different. They were cursing the sea alien races, showing off their strength, and discussing how they'd wait for the 5 great royal clans to make a move so they could get a piece of the pie. They even dragged my name out as a topic of gossip. Guessing where old Demon Sue had disappeared to, wondering if he had already settled down on the new continent. They even expressed regret that they hadn't seen the golden-haired Lion King show up to curse people out and satisfy their cravings in a while. Just as the arguments were still unresolved, a message suddenly popped up. The golden-haired Lion King is live streaming. Hurry up and watch. In the blink of an eye, the world channel was like it had been bombed. Messages flooded in, and countless aliens rushed into the Disaster Resistance livestream channel all at once. In less than 10 minutes, the view count skyrocketed from a few thousand to over 4 million, increasing by hundreds of thousands every minute. It was terrifyingly unbelievable. However, this livestream was extremely short. It lasted just over 12 minutes in total, with the actual broadcast time being less than 3 minutes. Yet, in just a brief 11 seconds, the Hope battleship caused the entire Disaster Resistance comment section to freeze. And less than 10 seconds after it ended, the Alien Races World channel also crashed. I was very familiar with this scene. It was exactly like that time I fired the Dongfeng at the false god Heavenly Hound, paralyzing the entire Races channel. I stood at the bow of the ship, looking at the distant aliens gazing up with reverence. Then, I ordered Connie to lead people down to gather all the cargo crates from the battlefield. If anyone asked, just answer straight up. Don't be curious about things you shouldn't know, or you'll die early. 25 minutes ago, when the Hope was still about 30 kilometers away from the battlefield, the radar had completed its biological scan. This was indeed a battle between land aliens and sea aliens, and the cause was ridiculously simple: fighting over the right-of-way. One side wanted to go west, the other wanted to go east. Neither was willing to yield, so tensions escalated. The sea was vast, but they just had to pick a fight with each other. The two sides hadn't started fighting yet only because their strengths were evenly matched. Neither was sure they could win, so they were desperately calling for reinforcements, waiting for more people to arrive to crush the other side. And right at that moment, I arrived. But before the sea alien bros could even arrive, their land alien bro, the golden-haired Lion King, showed up first. Without a single wasted word, I started the live stream, waited for the hype to peak, and in front of millions of aliens, all I needed was one cannon shot. About 300 sea aliens evaporated in the blink of an eye, vanishing without a trace. The golden-haired Lion King's strategy once again forced all the alien races to bow their heads in submission. The last sentence I left in the live stream was instantly etched into the hearts of all ordinary aliens. Whoever dares to touch the land alien races, even at the ends of the earth, must die. A while later, Connie led a group of aliens to dive into the sea, gathered all the treasure chests, and returned to the Hope to report. From that moment on, I understood the alien races on a deeper level. Contrary to my initial speculation, when collecting the spoils of war, the aliens of the Junlei Jinshao race didn't find it strange at all. Seeing the treasure chests, they even treated it like an everyday occurrence. That is the privilege of the strong in the animal kingdom. The weak have no right to ask questions, let alone the right to doubt. Even when the Hope was about to leave, they crawled onto their wooden rafts, waving their tiny hands like they were sending off an idol. In the eyes of ordinary aliens, since they couldn't contact the golden-haired Lion King directly, being able to summon me through the regional channel was already their greatest honor. They rejoiced that the human race had God Su, while they had the golden-haired Lion King. They began to look forward to what kind of earth-shattering spectacle the next live stream would be. But what they didn't expect was that this wait wouldn't last for days. Just 1 hour and 46 minutes later, the golden-haired Lion King's live stream appeared on the disaster resistance board again. This time, after just 5 minutes, the view count surpassed an unprecedented 5 million. Along with that popularity, the broadcast duration was even shorter, ending in just 6 minutes and 11 seconds. And this time, I taught them a new lesson. If one cannon shot isn't enough, then fire two. The number of sea aliens annihilated doubled to about 700. Before they could even open their mouths, they were blown to pieces, turning into fragments that permanently merged with the ocean. The 200 heavily injured land aliens who were saved went absolutely crazy. They prostrated on their wooden rafts, kowtowing repeatedly toward the Hope. At that moment, I had no doubt just how sacred an existence I had become in the eyes of those surviving aliens. There was also no doubt that over the next 2 days, these guys would vigorously spread the word about me all over the World Chat channel. Just 2 cannon shots in exchange for over 10 treasure chests, along with the awe and reverence of millions of aliens. A deal so profitable it couldn't be any more profitable. That night, for the land alien races, was a sleepless night. Every time the golden-haired Lion King's livestream appeared, it was no different from a national holiday. From the first livestream of 5 minutes with 5 million views, to the next one of 1.5 minutes with 6 million views, from battles lasting 6 minutes to ones ending in just 2 minutes. In a total of 14 strikes, the Hope annihilated over 7,000 aliens. Compared to the previous time when 20,000 aliens were wiped out, even though the treasure chest drop rate had decreased due to the disaster's escalation, the spoils of war were still extremely abundant. 1 gold chest, 9 silver chests, and nearly 50 normal chests. That night, all the land aliens across the ocean chanted in unison, "Long live the golden-haired Lion King." Also that night, the sea aliens who were once arrogant and rampant now shriveled up like frostbitten eggplants. Whenever they saw land aliens, they avoided them, terrified that if they provoked them, the golden-haired Lion King would descend from the sky and smash them to death on the spot. After the tsunami disaster broke out, under that soaring momentum, the land aliens won tens of thousands of small skirmishes against the sea aliens within 12 hours. Those who were once sluggish and desperate were now burning with fighting spirit. The sea aliens having the home field advantage was useless, because could they even withstand a single cannon shot from the golden-haired Lion King? In that boiling atmosphere, the The humans who were originally besieged by the sea aliens also astonishingly discovered that after just one night, the situation had changed. Previously, they were swept by sea aliens every night, but now they were witnessing them being hunted in reverse on the sea. It was strange, but also comforting. The entire human race had a rare peaceful night's sleep amidst the disaster era, even though the tsunamis were still howling offshore. Were things getting better? No one could be sure. But in this grand play, by the fourth day, after the third wave of tsunamis ended, the 5 great royal clans finally couldn't sit still anymore. Connie stood behind me, respectfully reporting, "Long Jing wants to negotiate. They request that we stop and no longer ruin their hunting plans on the sea. As for the conditions, we can name our price, from resources, reputation, and rare items, all the way to the title of the 6th royal clan." A month ago, Connie was still just an outcast abandoned by her clan. Now, the 5 great royal clans had to lower themselves to beg for peace, even offering to confer a royal title. Even now, she still hadn't fully recovered her senses. Her life as a lioness had completely changed, but she understood very well that all this glory came from the man standing in front of her. I didn't turn my head, only saying coldly, "Call Long Jing. Video call. Tell him to come talk to me himself." Even though I was wearing a lion's body, I couldn't help but let out a low lion's growl in that sentence. Just that single sound was enough to make Connie's legs go soft and her whole body tremble. "Yes, I'll call right away." Not understanding what I was plotting, Connie still chose to obey. When the connection sound rang out, Long Jing on the other side had obviously been waiting, so he accepted the call almost instantly. Under Connie's guidance, through the effect of the protective core, the image was quickly transmitted straight to my central control panel. With just a small relay device, video calls between humans and aliens were always as clear and smooth as usual. Long Jing was the least human-like creature I had ever met in the wasteland. He looked quite like a pangolin, his entire body covered in layers of crystal-clear scales that sparkled and reflected a magical light. Even his face and eyelids were covered by those scales, protecting every possible exposed weakness. The only thing that carried a human trait was the expression on his face. And it was exactly in that expression that I saw very clearly a hint of wariness mixed with killing intent. No matter how hard he tried to hide it, he couldn't completely suppress it. At this moment, as I made no effort to hide my evaluating gaze, Long Jing was also constantly glancing over, trying to gather every bit of information about me. Thanks to the connection from Connie's core, he could clearly see that the lion man in front of him didn't have a core. Therefore, after a moment of hesitation, he spoke first, showing an intention to get acquainted. "Greetings, mighty warrior Simba of the Oreo tribe. I am Long Li, leader of the Long Jing clan." It's an Han. He had just started beating around the bush when I showed no mercy, directly roaring to cut him off. The roar made Long Li jump, and all the words he was about to say instantly flew right out of his head. Is this Simba guy crazy? On the screen, I even deliberately shook my head, revealing an arrogant expression as if saying, "Is that all you've got?" The irritation in Long Li's heart instantly surged, and his initial intention to negotiate for peace deflated by more than half along with it. Taking a deep breath, without waiting for me to speak, he gritted his teeth and enunciated every word clearly, as if he had memorized them beforehand. "You know exactly why I made this call. You also know what I'm here for. Stop playing dumb. It's useless. Your strength is acknowledged by our 5 great royal clans. Even your Oreo tribe, we recognize as having the qualifications to stand on equal footing with the royal clans. As for the Lion King ship you're piloting, as long as you agree, we can become allies, standing together at the pinnacle of the alien races and ruling over everything. Just stop what you're doing. Once this tsunami wave passes, whatever you want, we can give it to you." As soon as Long Li finished speaking, I still just shook my head slightly, the corners of my lips even lifting into a highly sarcastic smile. "Is that it?" Long Li flared up. "Simba, what do you mean by this?" I smiled, my tone calm. "I don't mean anything. I'm just curious. Do the so-called 5 great royal clans ultimately just want to stand on the heads of the common alien races? Listening to you talk makes me laugh. Bullshit. If you hadn't gotten lucky and been born into a royal clan, with abilities like yours, just surviving in the wasteland would be hard enough, let alone being overlords. Seeing the anger becoming increasingly evident on his face, I continued speaking, neither fast nor slow. You want to negotiate, right? You want me to stop ruining your plans? Fine. It's very simple. I just need your 5 great royal races to issue a joint statement, officially recognizing our Oreo clan as the supreme rulers of the alien races, standing above even you. All alien races must follow our orders and submit to us. Do that, and I'll stop immediately. I won't make another move. Longxing glared. He never expected my conditions to be this absurd. He wasn't stupid. If the 5 great royal races actually made such a statement, then from that moment on, they would be completely under my control, and their entire grand plan behind the scenes would turn into a deadly gamble. You what? I smirked disdainfully. Did you guys really think you had the qualifications to stand on equal footing with me? To negotiate with me? Go ask those old men standing behind you. I wasn't planning on making a move during this disaster. But if you insist on playing dirty, causing a tsunami, and trying to swallow all the profits, then set up the board and let's play a high-stakes game. Seeing the stunned expression on Longxing's face as his conspiracy was exposed beneath the lion head, I could barely hide the joy in my heart. Sure enough, I had won this extreme gamble. Thanks to the massive amount of information and breaking out of my old mindset, the future of the human race, which seemed to have hit a dead end, finally revealed a ray of light. As of right now, even without any other factions joining in, I had single-handedly gathered all the conditions to trigger the 3-race war. As long as I wanted to, even right at this moment, I could ignite it myself and end the tsunami. But the price would be that humanity would enter a period of direct confrontation with the alien races, igniting an all-out war, along with the appearance of those old men hiding behind the 5 great royal races. If the major human bases dared to propose the concept of war zones, wanted to fight the aliens, and were confident they could achieve total victory in certain areas, then they definitely had trump cards in their hands. The only problem was that time was too tight. They couldn't deploy their personnel to the right positions in time. Therefore, my job was to use Liu Yongyi's name to send them a message. I can turn the disaster into a 3-race war. Despite staying up all night and fighting continuously, my mind had reached a peak state of clarity. Once you reach the top, all plans flow like a spring, without encountering any obstacles. Once the decision to fight in the wasteland was made, the human race had to act immediately. I took off the lion headpiece, took a deep breath of the salty sea air, then opened the game's control panel and quickly sent a message to Liu Yongyi. Mr. Liu, inform the major human bases. There's no need to waste effort trying to trigger the 3-race war. Leave this to me. On the final day of the tsunami, when we converge our forces, I will ignite the war and end this disaster. There are only 3 days left. In these 3 days, I have a few requests you need to pass on for them to implement urgently. First, make the ocean assault plan public. Subdivide the 12 war zones into smaller sectors, using every 10 regional channels as a unit. Redefine them immediately, then send all the data back to me. Second, all ships from the bases, starting from this moment, must urgently gather people into their respective areas. Whether it's a large ship, a small boat, or a wooden raft, every person and every vessel is a precious strategic asset. The sooner we gather, the smaller the losses will be when the war breaks out. Third, before the final day, you can avoid fighting, but absolutely do not be afraid to fight. If the sea aliens dare to make a move, hit them head on. If there's a chance, hit them where it hurts, make them terrified, and make them remember it for the rest of their lives. After writing, I read it over once to confirm all my points were clearly conveyed, then decisively hit send. At the same time, on the Dayuan ship, even though it was only a little past 7 a.m., an emergency meeting had to be held. Completely contrary to their initial predictions, in just one day, the number of wooden rafts gathered around the Dayuan had skyrocketed from 5,000 to over 11,000.